All right. So I started my own spy family. Thank you for tuning in for whoever is watching, and thank you for tuning in for whoever is listening, watching on YouTube specifically. It's no secret that Spy Family is one of my favorite animes this year. Um, yeah, Spy Family was a big surprise to me. I can't remember who told me to watch the show, but it's been a pleasant surprise. It's the first time I've actually watched an anime. Actually, no, it's the second one. I think Great Teacher Onizuka would be considered a slice of life. It's an anime about a teacher teaching in a high
Oh
school of like
yeah, I
delinquents.
remember you don't like slice of life for some reason.
Yeah. So Jordan's also here, co-host once again. Yeah, I don't like slice of life because I don't like being reminded of my life. For the most part,
What?
I need, I
That's
have too
so
much.
interesting.
Yeah, because I have too much drama, so I'm trying to get away from it. I'm trying to see swords explode. I need to see explosion and swords. That's what I'm here for. Not just like, oh, I heard you're getting married, so now I'm gonna confess I love with you. I'm not trying to deal with that. I already see that in real life. I don't want. I refuse to have it replicated. It's the same way as Deb, my wife, how she watches reality shows, right? Because she doesn't have drama. She's like, I need drama. You know how women love to gossip and shit? Yeah, it's the
Yep.
same. It's the same principle, except for me, the opposite. I have too much drama, so I don't want to watch drama. I want to watch violence and explosions.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't.
It's so interesting, man.
Yeah, I
Very
don't want to be
interesting.
reminded of this stuff. Like, no, like girlfriends or sorry, ex girlfriends of the past reaching out to me because they're hearing them getting married. Nah, keep all that over there. Keep all that over there. I'm not trying to get involved with that stuff. Let me just, watch some Bleach, watch some Naruto, watch some One Piece. Even though obviously they have their own plots and their values, it's like they're just mindless action. But like it helps me just get away from being reminded of. By the way, after the show is done, you still have to deal with your ex trying to hit you up, right?
Yeah, but the thing about slice of life that's very interesting is that
Hmm.
it's like a detox. You see what I'm saying? So, for example, with the swords and the knife and the
So
guns, it's
you
so
sound like an African father.
no, but it's so emotionally draining because you always have to pay attention to the smallest details. You have to pay attention to the plot. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it, it it's so draining to the point where if you miss one little detail, then you have to go back. Where slice of life is, okay, let me just relax. Okay, this person is speaking to that person. It's not really that important because it's slice of life. I don't have to rewind, even if I miss that piece of information. It's very calming and chill, you know?
I find the opposite, but the slice of life has been
Interesting.
refreshing. I will say that. Like just the last, I'm caught up now. So this is the first time us doing episode on the show that's we fully caught up on. We're actually up to date in the show. So by the time of this recording, like the only episode that hasn't come out is episode 25,
Yeah.
and yeah, the last few episodes have just been funny. I'm actually bursting out laughing. And, Deb as a wife is always like, "What's so funny? What are you laughing at?" And it's like, can I not? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, when you're with a girl and like you're scrolling, you laugh. Like, what's so funny? What do you laugh? Why do you have to be involved with the funny all the time? Why can't I just have a space of my own funny and you're just not in it? Yo,
You
those
know,
memes are real.
no, you're absolutely right. One woman, I remember one woman told me, "Why is it that when you're with me, you don't laugh as much as when you're with your friends?"
You're not funny. You're not
I
fun. It's okay.
was just like,
You're not
man,
funny.
it's just your friends. I don't know. My friends are funny, man. My friends are funny,
Yeah.
but it's to them, it's more like, wow. So I can't bring that side of you, or I can't make you that happy, and yeah, it's very interesting. But when
And
you watch Spy Family, right?
mhm.
I need you to be honest with me. Don't you feel at peace? I mean, because you could just relax, chill, and even laugh at Anya's behavior.
No, you're right. You're right. It's like I said, these last few episodes have just been funny, and it's not even like going on a very like I'm in a blurred black nerd group chat on WhatsApp, and like People were like, I saw people just saying, like the show plot is not moving forward. I'm just like, honestly, I'm cool with that. This is funny. It's just seeing
Yeah,
Anya investigate into the hospital and getting trapped and making them think the therapist and psychiatrist thinking that there's actually ghosts in the building. That show's funny.
yeah.
And then we got some like super Sakuga tennis match. I think I told you what Sakuga means, right?
Sakuga, no.
Sakuga. It basically means well drawn. Like the tennis match, you saw the action quality was crazy. Like they're dodging bullets and playing. I was like, yo, what? I haven't got this hype from tennis since like Death Note. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
that was a really good episode. I really liked
yeah,
that episode.
right. So yeah, no, I've been enjoying it. It does make me think of Great Teacher Onizuka, where it was just like there was just some funny, just hilarious things. You're just like, what the hell's going on? What am I watching?
Yeah.
What am I watching? What's going on right now? Yo, I wish they would actually like fully finish a manga of GTO, Great Teacher Onizuka. I would love that. That's one of my top 5 anime. Top 5.
What's the anime called?
Great Teacher Onizuka.
Okay.
Or you can search up anime GTO and you'll find it. It's on Crunchyroll. That's where I finally decided to watch it. And now, bro, Jordan, I tell you right now, I was laughing. Like, and I was just like, it just reminded me of, I do a lot of community work, right? So I
Yep.
can relate to GTO and from like the teacher aspect in terms of the community work I do with all the young people I work with. So it was just reminding me, like, I think like the main cast of the show reminded me of 5 different youth I've worked with. It was funny. I was just like,
Mm.
you remind me of him. You remind me of her. It was funny watching that. And even like the way he would initially build relationships with those characters very much remind me about those youth and how I initially built relationships with them and how oftentimes it was hard or no one could build relationships with that said young person. So it really hit home. And it's the same way as like with watching Loid. By the way, as we're doing the episode, I might refer to Loid as Twilight as well, just for people to know. I won't necessarily call your uh the Thorn Princess.
Hmm.
Thorn Queen is Thorn Queen. Uh because she's not her assassin side doesn't really come out as much. But more so Loid Twilight side. Like we don't even know his real name. Loid's a fake name. We still don't even know his real name.
Hmm.
I might say Loid or Twilight for people if they get confused. Same character. Don't get confused. Um, so yeah, initially watching the show, I very much related to Loid. Specifically, when Loid said in the first episode, like he's dating, I think her name is Karen, ironically enough. Well, he's talking to that girl Karen, and she's the daughter of the boss that he's trying to like get information from. And he was just like, conventional happiness, marriage, a family. It's not for me, bro. It's not for me. I'm using my UK accent. Not for me, bro. Not, bro.
Yeah.
I'm doing the gun hand sign thing for people that are watching. Not for me, bro. And I very much related to that. That was me like 3-4 years ago. Like every time, my mom or anybody's like, "Hey, is there any girls in the picture? You seeing anyone?" I'm like, there's actually a specific line I love from Captain America 2, Captain America the Winter Soldier. So Black Widow's
Yeah.
talking to him. You'll get there when you start watching Marvel movies. And she says, if you out, if she's talking, so Black Widow's talking to Captain America. He's been 7 years out of time, right? So he's in the present, 2014. And Black Widow says, if you ask Christy out from statistics, she'll say yes, to a date. And Captain America responds, "That's why I don't ask." And then Black Widow's like, "Are you too shy or too scared?" And
Mm.
Captain America's response embodies what I always said to my family whenever they ask me about dating. Too busy. I'm too busy working on my craft, doing my own thing, doing the community work I'm doing, helping people, helping friends, helping family to bother to date. And I think I told you, like at one point I just stopped bothering to date because I found it was a waste of resources and my time.
That's a very interesting perspective. I think mine was quite the opposite. I
Okay.
think now I'm at a position where I don't care because
What do you mean by
when
you
I
don't
was
care?
so exactly what Twilight says, right? Like conventional happiness is beyond him, right? It's just not worth striving for. The reason I'm like this now is because when I was younger, especially my teenage years up to my early 20s, I went on so many dates to the point where I can't even count how many I went on.
Right.
So I was just date like every single week I would have a new date.
That's a lot.
It
Did you
was
ever double
way too
book?
many. Have I? I have. One time it was
That
just
is a classic case. I've always anyone I know that goes dates a lot, that goes heavy in, they always double book. But go on.
yeah. So especially in my teenage years, I used to see like two or three girls at the same time, and to the point where I just stopped
That
doing all of
pair.
that. No, no, but I stopped doing all of that because I realized it's not going anywhere. I'm just wasting my time. I could be playing basketball. I could be chilling with, oh, I could be hanging out with friends. What am I really doing? And plus, you also get you also get a bad reputation because, of course, if you're seeing that many women, especially in Toronto, the chances of them knowing each other is very high. So, not that I really cared about reputation, but it's just not a good look, especially if you want to date other people. Because instead of them giving you a chance, they're going to say, well, no, I heard from so and so person that you already went on a date with them. So, anyways, so the point I'm trying to say is I used to want to strive for that when I was younger, especially my teenage years leading up to my early 20s, where I realized that striving for that and becoming consciously aware that, you know what, I'm going to go look for happiness wasn't something that I should have done, only because it just kept me further from the goal. Like whenever I was trying to look for happiness, I just never found it.
Yeah, because happiness has to come from within, right? I think that's what a lot of us forget. We feel like I wrote. So for those that don't know this, I think maybe you know this, Jordan. I occasionally write poetry, and I've always said it.
I did not know that.
Plot twist.
Okay,
Yeah,
continue.
I did a lot of poetry. In fact, I used to draw. I used to be really good at drawing. So I used to have a lot of art skills. This is the reason why I got a lot of my art skills from my mom. My mom, if there's a painting my mom did, if I could find it, you'd be like, "Your mom did that?" Yeah. So that's why I
Mm,
always, like we were talking about before we started, like I always wanted someone that had a good balance of my mom and my sister in terms of their different personality traits. And I've always gone for women that, like, if you look at all the women I've ever dated, despite them all pretty much being black, the other thing is they're all very artistic,
mm.
very good painters or drawers, something. They always have a very strong art skill, typically around painting and drawing. You know, they say was your mom is your first wife and your father's your first husband. So those are always the things that like I tended to gravitate towards. I think it's a kind of like an also unconscious thing because people who are artistic tend to be more sensitive, and I knew that being someone with someone more sensitive, they'd be more attentive to how I feel and how I think versus someone that's insensitive. They'd
So
probably
you're
say
saying this
insensitive.
is a no, because are you saying these are conscious decisions that you're making?
Both
Okay,
unconscious and conscious.
okay.
I was doing it and I became aware of it more and more as I got older.
Hmm.
You're
You
thinking.
you definitely no no. I actually wasn't thinking. I'm just. I guess you just know what you want. That's it.
Yeah, and like I have like according to my therapist, I have like a high level of self-awareness and insight. So I'm able to
Hmm.
really good at like self-diagnose and assess myself. And then that's been further improved by doing therapy. Like for anyone who's very self-aware, like you and myself, if you already have that, that's great. It means you'll actually benefit even more from therapy because it means that like someone can get your brain going. Like imagine you're athletic. Imagine compared to other people you're athletic, and then you get a personal trainer.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
You're unstoppable. You've become a super soldier. You're like Sanji or Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy or Captain America. You're a super soldier. You can't be stopped now. What? You're athletic and you got a personal trainer? You're insightful and you got therapists? Holy smokes. My, don't stop. But yeah, so Yeah, those are the things I was always looking for. So that's what I was kind of drawn to. And then and it makes me think of the some of the more recent episodes with Yor and Loid. I almost mispronounced her name. That might happen a few times. Where she's drunk and she's feeling like, Lloyd's gonna leave her for Fiona.
Oh,
And
that's the recent episode.
yeah, that was one of the recent episodes, yeah. And
Okay.
Lloyd ends up saying that we're covering the whole show up until like episode 24 because 25 isn't out yet. Um, that his mom is strong or was strong. And so even though I know it's not like a actual conventional marriage, they got married, but it has the same tenets of an actual marriage. And that's what makes the show so interesting. Um, and he was saying how his mom was strong, and so that's something that he appreciates about your I should say. This is gonna be like the fact, like the amount of times the subtitles when we put subtitles for this is gonna be misinterpreting YOR as YOUR is gonna be funny. But anyways,
Mhm.
um, she's strong, and because of her the strength that Yor shares, just like she does with Lloyd's mom, is the reason why Anya feels so safe, despite her not having all the conventional homemaking skills. It's still also what makes her such a great mom. And yeah, and so one could see Lloyd went for her because she has that strength that he saw in his mom, right? You go for what you grew up seeing, which can also have its own implications. Sometimes you have like a horrible or possibly abusive parent, so that's what you end up dating. Just kind of like what in our episode with Johnny Depp, right? I don't know if you knew this, but Jordan, but Johnny Depp's mother was very abusive.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, his Johnny Depp's mom was very definitely emotionally abusive to the whole family, and I'm pretty sure physically abusive to their dad. Um, to the point where he just couldn't take it one day and just never came back from work. He explained it to his son, Johnny Depp, on like why he couldn't take it anymore, but it took Johnny a long time to understand. But his dad just couldn't take it anymore. He just left.
You know, I like yours character. I really like her character's character development,
Hmm.
but there isn't much, of course, because she seems to know exactly who she is,
Hmm.
and she seems to know exactly what she wants. But it's the little nuance that makes her character so beautiful. So, in the beginning of especially season one, you can kind of see that the only reason why, of course, she wanted to get married was because of societal pressure. Not to say that she didn't have a little bit, not to say that she didn't want to get married herself, but it was more so from the pressure that, hey, look, I'm getting so old, and the people around me are speaking about their husband at work,
I'm gonna
of
start looking at
course.
you sideways. You're right.
Yeah, people started looking at me sideways, right? But the moment she got exactly her man,
Hmm.
she felt again this pressure that this man is so wonderful. I need to be on my best behavior, and I need to also perform as this guy's wife. So
Hmm.
because she was so conscious of that effort, of course, you're gonna mess up, right? Because now you're not being comfortable, you're not truly being who you are, especially in the beginning, because you're putting all this pressure on you.
Hmm.
But as the episode goes on, you can kind of see how relaxed she becomes.
Yeah.
She understands that Lloyd is a very tolerant man,
Very
that
understanding.
very understanding also. So as long as he sees that you're trying that he he's willing to give you a chance,
Hmm.
and she understood this, which
Hmm.
is why she was able to become the best mother for
Anya.
Anya.
Right.
Yeah. But I
No.
really like her character development. It's very interesting. It's not one that's extremely drastic or huge in change.
Hmm.
It's very little. And
Hmm.
then by the time you look back,
She's come
you're
along.
like, yeah, you're like, whoa, she's come a long way. And the way she changed in such little details is so beautiful.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a really good point. Just And that's what we see in society. It's understandable because women don't have as big of a window to find a good partner compared to us. We have like forever because sperm lasts forever, but
Yeah.
eggs last until like your late 30s, maybe early 40s if you're lucky. I think black women have a lot higher survivability of the eggs lasting longer or being able to give childbirth or geriatric childbirth. I think that would be
Yep.
the right term. I'm not a doctor, just a social worker, so I'm not really good with all those technical terms. But yeah, you're right. There is a lot more pressure on women on this sort of stuff, and more so. There's I found watching the show and then just looking on my own real life experiences, there is a greater expectation for women to come as the quote unquote complete homemaker.
Yep.
I would no, even more so to come as a complete homemaker machine. So like there's this one
I like what
conversation.
you did there. I like what you did there. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, so like it made me think of like so we had one of the young people that we support, we had her over, and I can't remember the reason, but I brought up the fact I'm like, and I'm sure you can understand this too. I suggested to Deb to have her help Deb like clean up the place because like she was coming over, and for Deb is like you're not supposed to have other people help you clean as in terms of the African Congolese culture. You're supposed to do it yourself. If you are getting help, it means that you're not, I guess you could say, a competent wife,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
it's very much like one could say, I would say it's the opposite. Like men are expected to come complete financially. I think that's the main thing we're supposed to come completed. In terms of marriage, in terms of relationships, there's other things that there's more expectations for us to do. Like you have to be confident, you have to talk to women, you have to be charming, you have to be charismatic, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to marriage, I think the main thing that's expected of us is the financial piece, which kind of has its own strain. Like it was definitely financially strenuous, paying off for Deb's dowry, right? But there's not an expectation for me to know to how to be handy and build everything. I should, but I'm not. I don't feel like I'll necessarily be as condemned as compared to a wife who doesn't know how to cook.
Yeah. Yep. The thing is that I can't speak for all culture. I can only speak for the Congolese culture.
Mm-hmm.
Is that exactly what you said? Men are supposed to financially provide, and women are supposed to come as a complete, you know, home making package or whatever you want to call that.
Machine, yeah.
Yeah,
Supposed to just do
machine.
it all. Yeah.
And it's very interesting because I've seen a relationship where the men stop earning what they used to,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman would still stay. Like especially in our culture, being divorced is extremely frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot get divorced,
Mm-hmm.
despite no matter what's going on. The only time you can really get divorced is if the man cheated enough time to the point where it was just embarrassing. So it's not like if he
Or
cheated
beating the shit out
once.
of you.
There's that too, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's that too, or of course, sadly, if the man passes away. But
Mm.
aside from those three, anything else, if you're just
Frowned
simply
upon.
just not, yeah, if you're simply just not happy,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a poor excuse to even get divorced. If if the man stopped earning what he used to, that's even a poor excuse to get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's very interesting, right? It's very interesting. I can kind of see relating this back to the anime. I can kind of see how your relates to the average married Congolese woman. How they
Go
put
on,
so much,
speak on this. Speak on this. It
yes,
sounds juicy. Go on.
yeah, yeah. So
Go
the
off.
fact that the fact that the amount of pressure they put on themselves to want to perform for their husband
Mm-hmm.
is also a very Congolese thing. The reason
Mm-hmm.
the reason I know this is because I've not only seen it with my mother, but I've seen it with her friends.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it where, some of her friends' husband would sadly cheat on them, but despite that, because of societal pressure from other Congolese community,
Mm-hmm.
she is forced to still love this man and
Mm-hmm.
try to make it work, even though the husband is the one at fault. It's very interesting. So
Hmm.
in this case, when you look at the recent episode, right, Yor is extremely jealous of
Yes.
of the coworker,
Yeah,
but then
Fiona.
she
Mhm.
also understands that Fiona is very beautiful, and I understand why Lloyd would go for her. So
Absolutely.
so that was a huge mistake on yours part because from that point on, she's tolerating, she's accepting the fact that if he cheats on me, I can understand.
So like you're basically talking about coming from a place of lack and unworthiness.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Right. And the reason for that, of course, we can go into all this therapy stuff, but
Therapy. Okay,
yeah,
go on.
but I don't want to go there, right? But it's too deep and it's too much. But all I can say is it's very interesting because yours attitude is the moment they start the relationship,
Lloyd
she
and
always,
you're right.
yeah.
Hmm.
So the moment they started the relationship, you can already see there's a sense of she thought she was lacking,
Right.
and it was never dealt with properly. And I think that the average married Congolese woman, they're they're really pride. No, I wouldn't say they're prideful, but they're really confident, right? I don't know if you've come across many other Congolese women, but they're really confident. But when it comes to doing certain things for the man, they can also doubt themselves, but they never tell you. I know this because I've always had very, like, my mom's my best friend, so I've always had conversation with her, and she tells me this all the time, that they have this fear that maybe their man is going to leave them for a younger woman, and I said no way.
I
So,
wanted to speak on that. Go on.
oh, you want me to continue?
Yeah, no, keep going. Man, I literally didn't you hear what I said like 2 minutes ago? I said go off. Go off.
Yeah. So then again, you have this fact that, relating this back to the anime, that uh, Lloyd's colleague, or Fiona, is there,
Fiona.
and
Hmm.
now she has this irrational fear that, oh, even though uh, I try to make sure that I don't look like I'm lacking, he will still probably leave me for this woman right here. Am I not good enough? And I think that what needs to happen realistically is, I think when you marry someone, or if you decide to be with someone, it needs to come from a place where you don't think you're lacking, because it's just going to pose a lot of issue. And when you look at your, for example, is that she never healed from that. Have you noticed that? It's been season two, and
Healed
she
from what?
still she never healed from the fact that,
It's season one, part two. Season one, part two. Just want to say that, but go on. Hmm.
yeah, she never healed from the fact that, okay, you know what? I'm secure enough. Um,
I'm good enough,
I
right? Hmm.
Yeah, I'm good enough. I know I may not be perfect, but as long as I'm willing to try, and as long as I am improving, I am good enough. And the fact that he is still with me for all this time,
Hmm.
that is proof to that. Because any man, of course, let's be honest, right? If you're with someone and they do not do their duty at all, they don't do their duty really well for a very long time, you're gonna start having conversations with the person and say, hey, well, like, what's going on? And you're gonna confront the person. But Lloyd has never done that. So that is a testament that you can see that she's actually doing a pretty good job, because Lloyd never really had to confront her, because she knows, it's not that she knows what she's doing, but she's capable enough
Knows what her role
to
and she's
take care
capable.
of, exactly,
Yeah.
she's capable enough to take care of Anya,
Hmm.
in that respect, that Lloyd does not have to intervene. Now,
Hmm.
when it came to academic reasons, of course, you'll see Lloyd coming in and intervening, right? You'll be like, okay, you know what,
That's his
like, let,
role.
let
Yeah.
me exactly let me take care of this. But in other respect, when it comes to the nurturing part, she lets Yor do her thing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
He doesn't bother to step in.
Hmm.
But just relating back to this Yor and Congolese woman, is that I find there are so many similarities that, I think that's worth talking. I don't know if you've noticed any of them, but I definitely want to hear your opinion on this.
Thinking for a second. I wouldn't say it's a Congolese thing. I would say it's a. I would say this is more of a global, international thing, but I can speak a little bit on just in terms of the whole African culture thing.
Yeah,
There is just overall more expectation for women to just know how to be the homemaker, like, and so I would say that also plays a role in terms of how women are hard on themselves. Like I know I have some female friends who, because they aren't necessarily really good at cooking or like cooking, they're harder on themselves because they're like, man, I wish I could just be like. I've actually heard women say, I wish I was such a good cook like Deb.
nice.
And it's just like, yeah, Deb has that, but there's other things that you have that Deb may not have, right? And it makes me think of like this really good quote from Loid. Let me just look for it right now. Um, there we go. Every family slash couple works differently with different skills. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and he goes on to say this about Yor. She is extremely tidy and excels at keeping our house spotless. So yes, her cooking skills are trash.
Yep.
Or booty cheeks, but like the male hairy version kind, not like the nice woman kind. Hairy booty cheeks. That
What
I
the?
give like a
Where you
visual
go?
I
Where are
say
you
booty
going
cheeks
with
like it.
this?
Oh, that sounds great. Booty cheeks. I love booty cheeks. Especially if you're an ass man, like myself and any other black man. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. Oh, booty cheeks. It sounds great. No, it's not. Talking about man's butt. Hairy, gross, disgusting. That's horrible. You don't want food like that.
But the good thing is that
Yes,
cooking is a skill. So
it
and
is,
she
and you
could
can develop
definitely.
it, and just
Yeah.
and you see that with your developing, getting back the home the southeastern stew that her mom made, right? She was able to figure out and remember that, like, you can develop skills, just like as we talked about in Mob Psycho. People change, people grow, people develop new skills, and so on and so forth. It's very rare that people stay the same and stay stagnant, right? So even for her, she was just like, I need to step up my cooking skills. You saw how she kept saying that, and eventually, just because of her, I guess you could say, love or admiration for Loid, and Loid, doing what he needs to do as a husband, she's like, I need to step up. I need to do my thing as the wife, right? So it's not necessarily. I think that's a great thing about Yor, but at the same time, that pressure is also not fair on her either, in terms of the pressure he puts on himself to come as a complete homemaker. And maybe, depending on the young woman, or I would even say the young man too, the young men that grew up without fathers, right? If depend Sometimes your circumstances dictate the sort of skills that you develop, right?
I think the pressure. Uh, I think that part is debatable. I think that if the pressure, if okay, if the pressure extends itself to where there's self harm,
Hmm.
then I think that's not good. I think you're right, but I think that there needs to be some level of pressure to where you can perform. Where so even athletes, right? Uh,
Hmm.
they still face pressure despite the fact that they can perform. But
Hmm.
it's a good type of pressure. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It's a good form of pressure where they know they need to perform if they want to keep having their job.
Hmm. Yeah. No.
So
The perfect quote is, and I was waiting for you to finish to say, pressure makes diamonds.
yeah, exactly.
I also
So
get.
I
I don't know
I think
exactly how diamonds are made, to be honest with you. In case anyone's wondering, I actually don't know, but apparently involves pressure. Like you got to cut and smash and move it around for it to look nice. I think it probably looks ugly without the pressure, and there you have it, right? You gotta
mhm.
Pressure makes things improve. Like like I wouldn't be working where I am today if I wasn't under pressure to leave where I was.
Yeah, I just think that it depends how that pressure manifests itself and the end result of it,
If it's
which will
unhealthy.
make, yeah, if it's unhealthy, whether or not it will be positive or unhealthy. So in yours position, in her case, I think that the pressure has manifested itself where it's just become extremely bad for her
Hmm.
and not healthy in a way where she would be able to become comfortable because what's going to happen is when she faces a threat in her relationship,
Mhm.
she is going to break down like the way she did. She was unable to get any words out, so she had to get completely drunk to even try to speak her mind.
That's a
Because
good
I
point. That's a good point. That's a
so
lot of pressure.
it was a lot of pressure, right? And also it comes to the part where they never really set up the room to have that dialogue to
Mm,
where, okay, if I'm feeling such a way, can I speak to this man? The fact that she had to get drunk, right, to even say such a thing shows that there isn't a room for open dialogue to
right,
where to which both party will be comfortable.
right.
But the fact that she that's well, just going back to my original point, but the fact that that's how she manifested herself, given the pressure she faced, it just became completely unhealthy, right?
Right. That's a very good point. And I mean, that goes back into just the aspect of all three of them having something to hide. And, we find it funny when we watch the show. I found the show. So, one of the reasons I love the show is that the show started when I was on the verge and now married. So, I just found this, the idea of starting your own family. So, for me, this is the reason why I named the episode like literally, I'm starting my own spy family. Like, we have our own family that we started. We don't have our little Anya yet, but we started the process. And
Yeah, let me
when I look,
find out you're a spy.
yeah, we started our own spy family.
No, let me find out you're a spy.
Oh, anyways, no,
Oh man.
but like I was saying, I found it very relatable, and there are a lot of aspects of myself that I kept hidden from Deb, and Deb kept hidden from me.
Mhm.
So when you look at a show of where the husband's a spy, the wife's an assassin, and the daughter's a telepath, yeah, this is how we interact and move in the world. This is how we interact in terms of relationships. We hide things from other people because when you think about it, the one thing we all want is to be loved and accepted. And
Yep.
we look at ourselves and like, man, who could possibly accept this thing or that thing about me? So yeah, we hide those things, right? It takes a lot to become really vulnerable to tell someone this is the ugly aspects of me. I'm a spy and I've given up my own real name in the case of Twilight, aka Loid, or Anya, who's literally told I can't tell anybody. I was told by the scientists who took care of me and raised me, probably experiment on me too, that I should never tell anyone about my telepathy skills. And then we even go back to your and just the pressures of being a feminine woman and how homemaker machine. Like, yo, I kill people and I dodge bullets. I'm not exactly feminine all the time. And the main reason I know how to clean is because I have to clean up the massacres of blood I've always caused, right? And yeah, there's a lot of aspects for Deb and I where there's a lot of things that I kept hidden about myself from her. One of those things is just my emotional vulnerability. It took me a long time to get emotionally vulnerable with it.
Mhm.
The YouTube channel Abba and Preach, and they made a really good point in that they created a really good comparison. So men treat their emotional sanctity in how they share with how women treat their sexual sanctity and who they share their sexuality with or who they decide to be sexual with.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very mindful of what type of women I let in and how I share. Like I said, like we talked, I think we talked about this in terms of how much I share with my mom and my sister, with the way they weren't able to receive certain things. I just don't share. You can't take this information. That's fine. I'm not going to give it to you. Right? We're very as men, like we have to work under the guise of stoicism a lot, right? So when we take off the guise, just like how Loid takes off his mask, when he's operating as Twilight, when you take that off and someone can't accept who you are with the mask off, it's like, oh, I'm definitely not gonna take it off now. The fuck? I had this
You
on
can
all
be
day.
him.
I decided to
Yeah.
take it off for 30 seconds. You get grossed out because some women get grossed out by men's emotions. Oh, you're crying. What the fuck's wrong with you? Okay, fine. I won't cry in front of you ever again. Simple as that. And that's how men would operate. I just won't cry in front of you. I'll leave. Right?
I like what you said. it's not the fact that they're spy and the other one is assassin, the other one is a what is
Telepath.
it, like a telepath, right? So it's not the fact that they're that, but it's just the fact that how what they are symbolizes how they just keep secrets from each other.
Exactly. And even for
So
me,
so what you said right there. So that was very interesting. Yeah. So if you
mhm.
can, okay, so if I could go even deeper, it's
Uh-oh.
like it's
Yeah.
like so it's like Lloyd represents the fact that how men are not supposed to, especially if you want to find a mate, right? Men are not really supposed to tell everything about themselves. They're supposed to be mysterious in trying to
Benny
like
Masks. Hmm.
yeah, they have to wear men masks, but they also have to be mysterious in that
Hmm.
the woman needs to still be around,
Hmm.
want to be around him because he's mysterious. Because
Hmm.
if we as men we just tell everything about who we are to a woman, like she's gonna get bored very easily. Like it's sad that I'm putting it like this, but it's true. I've seen it, right? It's even happened to me on my last day where I just kind of like told what I like to do and stuff like that. And some people get very bored when they just figure you out very early because there's no mystery, right?
That's facts.
So that's kind of like how Lloyd came off to me,
Hmm.
right?
That's a very good point. Hmm. Go on.
And then yours sort of represents the fact that uh, there's this emotional imbalance within me that I cannot tame unless, of course, I find the right man or the right person. And that's the assassin side, right? Because look how she acts when she's killing people. It's like
Right.
she is not even herself anymore. And that's the emotional side of her, right? You can kind of see that
Interesting. You would
emotions
say
with
that's
her whenever.
why would you say
Um,
that's the emotional side? Could you expand on that? Because I would have flipped it the other way around. I would say when she's in her assassin mode, she's the most callous. That's when she has like that blank face.
so it's that too, right? So even being callous, like that's part of your emotions. Like
Okay.
emotion doesn't always have to be like erupt, like I'm crying or whatever. But it's
Right.
just the fact that like when it comes to emotion,
Hmm.
women dominate that area.
Yeah, they,
S-
they they take over all the emotional space as we were talking about
they
before.
exactly
Recording.
what you said, right? They take all of it. So
Right.
if they really want to kill us with that, like, they know exactly how to do it. So that's sort of like the symbol I got with your. It's probably too extreme. You
Okay.
may agree or disagree with it, but that's sort of like the symbol I got from it.
Okay.
Like when it comes to mystery, it's the man. When it comes to emotion, it's the woman. And then kids are very very interested in that they notice everything. So
Yes.
they notice the emotional aspect from the woman, but then they also notice the mysterious aspect from the man. Like they notice these little nuances,
Yeah.
but it's hard for them to speak on it because the adults will not believe them.
And not
That's
just
one.
that. I just want to kind of add to that. It's not just that, but also they're children, so they don't know how to fully articulate themselves, right? They
That's
don't know how
another
to
good
express
point.
themselves, but they see everything. And that's why a lot of and so for me, I really love like that's the first thing I picked up on the show once they showed that Anya was a telepath and Anya is able to say, oh, dad's lying. Oh, dad's doing this. Oh, dad's doing that. Oh, dad's really a spy. Oh, dad is really meaning this because kids really can read off of you what you're thinking and what you're feeling. They can't articulate it, but they know. And I've seen that doing a lot of community work, not necessarily working with children, but also youth. And when me and certain coworkers weren't getting along, as much as like I'll act cordial and know how to like kind of smooth things over, that's one of the things. Kind of going back what you're expecting in terms of Lloyd. I think also to add to that, the whole mysterious thing is to also be very to know how to be always sophisticated, composed, and confident. I think there's an expectation of us men to come with that, especially when it comes to the dating portion, right? To know how to
Yep.
handle everything. Oh, the date's not going well. I have a backup plan. Oh, let me pick you up. I know the time. I'm going to pick up the plate. I'm going to pick the place. I'm going to pick the time. I'm going to get you. I know how to talk to the waiter. I know how to talk to everybody. I know how to talk to the bouncer in case he's being rude. You're supposed to be able to handle any and all situations without somehow ever experiencing any and all situations. So for us men, there's also a lot of pressure on us to have those things figured out without anyone really showing us how to figure those things out. right? Like no one teaches you how to plan a date. There's no instructions for that. You think it sounds easy to plan a date for with a woman that with another person that you don't know, and to make sure the other person enjoys themselves without knowing exactly what that other person enjoys. That's really hard,
Yeah. Imagine
right?
imagine planning a date, right? You took so much time to plan it, and
Mhm.
that and then the other person is hoping that at least you don't come off insecure. It's very hard to do that. It's very hard because imagine if
Well,
you put
planning the
time
date
and
if
money.
something goes wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine you
And
put time and money into the effort, and then there's just that feeling of insecurity that's going to be there because what if something, exactly what you just said, what if something goes wrong, right? I put so much effort into this. What if she doesn't like it? Naturally, we're going to feel like that because we put so much time and money into the date,
and there's expectations for us. It's like, oh,
and
his
there's
car broke down.
expectation.
What did he do next? It's not like what did I try as a woman try to do. There's no expectation for you to do that. You just have to show up, be pretty, and smile, right?
Yeah,
So and that's where a lot of those things come in. And I think it goes back into the quote of like, there's a lot that men have to do to attract women, and there's a lot of what a woman has to do to retain a man. Hence the whole homemaking machine stuff. But anyway, so yeah, when I was
but
looking
it,
at,
it does depend. But also, I just want to touch on that point. It's also depend. Okay, so it is also a fair exchange when you think about it. Think about it for example. Think about it for example, right? So the amount of makeup she puts on, right? Uh, what else? The outfit she probably like. This is if she really likes you. I'm not talking about just a fling. Like I have no attraction to this guy. I'm just gonna take him out for dinner, take his money, whatever the case may be. If she really likes you, right? The outfit she puts on for you, I don't know. She probably bought it, recently just for you. Like all of that costs money, right? So it kind of cancels each other out. Now, I'm not saying this happens all the time because, of course, you're gonna have certain situation where, on both sides, where the man is not gonna want to spend a lot of money, probably just go on a walk or ice cream or something like that, or the woman is not even going to try as hard. But just let's assume that both party really do like each other and they're willing to put the effort for each other. Then, to a certain degree, I can see it be a fair exchange, especially if the
I
woman is
disagree
putting
there.
on.
I
Yeah,
disagree
so
there.
it's fine.
So one aspect is, what if he's also has to get dressed up for the date? Yeah, he may not be putting on makeup, but he still has to get dressed up and wear nice clothes, put on good cologne, so on and so forth, get well shaved, all that stuff. And on top of that, and I had a conversation with Deb about this,
Yeah,
my wife, and we were talking about how, for instance, we don't really talk about this in the society, but there's a greater expectation for a man to have not just a nicer car, but for his car to be clean. Women are allowed to have
hundred
dirty
percent.
cars.
No, okay, okay, okay. But listen. So when it comes to the car, the house, and all of that, this is what we men we're supposed to have that already. It's not because of the women. We're supposed to just have that because it is
Somehow.
for us. You see what I'm trying to say? It's like if I have a car, it's not because okay, this is for my date. No, it's because this is what I need in order to get to A to B. And then if I was to get a date, that's just a bonus. That's just cool.
But here's
But
the
it's
thing. Sorry, I'm
yeah.
gonna jump in there. What was I gonna say? Women are less likely to go on a date with you if you don't have a car, though.
That's true. But which is why I said that's a bonus, right? That's just a bonus.
Okay, so you're saying okay. So from my understanding, the car is a luxury. I'm not saying people should have luxury cars. I'm saying that from my understanding from you, you're saying that the luxury option that comes with a car is to go on dates. Did I get that right? Like
Yes,
you're supposed to have a car, and the
the
luxury
luxury side.
optional
Yeah,
exactly
so
would
the
be to
luxury
go on a
side of
date,
a
right?
car is to go on dates. But okay, let me just go back to my point. My point is this: the reason I see as a fair exchange is because okay, if you were to account for nails itself, and I'm gonna be cheap here because I don't know the most expensive side. That could be probably I don't know
hundred
like
dollars.
$60. How
Yeah,
much?
100
A
for
hundred.
good
Okay, I said
quality.
I
Yeah,
said I said 60. 100, right? Eyelashes, right? Eyelashes, makeup.
no
How
guy
much?
likes that. No guy likes that though. But go on.
No, I
I'll
mean,
let you go.
if
I'll
it
let you
looks
go. Go on.
natural, if we can't tell, if it looks natural, then it's good. If they overdo it, then yeah, you're right. Hair, right? Hair is expensive.
For we're talking about black women in this case. Go on.
Uh, Absolutely. So hair is expensive. That in of itself is already expensive. Like that's wow. And then they have to get that professionally done. They have to go to a salon for that. They have to get the perfect wig for that. So all of that and the installment, all of that costs a lot of money, right? And they'll do this for that date, that first day, especially if they really like that man. And how much are we spending, right? We're probably going to spend on that. I think I've
I
seen a
would I
study.
would argue the same thing about a wig. I would argue for a car though. Like you're gonna wear a wig to work, and then the luxury thing that comes with that is that you can wear it on the date. But go on.
That's a very interesting point. But there's certain type of wigs that they would
I
wear.
know that. I'm married to a black woman. I know that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how much wigs are
So it's
sitting
like
at home?
there's
They
certain
can't
type
see
of
it.
yeah. So there's certain type of wigs, the wigs they're gonna wear that's not too professional.
Yeah,
That won't scream too professional. Like
Deb
that's
has
gonna
a
scream.
workout.
Look how
I get it.
good I look,
Hmm.
right? So, but now let's be honest. Let's
Hmm.
be honest here, right?
Hmm.
How much is the men spending
I can't determine that.
on
You mean
average?
like per date
So, so I've seen a
with the meal
study.
that he's also paying for, most likely?
No, just on average, I've
Plus
seen that
driving?
Toronto men. No, no. So on average, I've seen that men are spending about. I think it was like 100. I think it was like 170 something dollars on average for dates.
Okay.
And I'm gonna assume that's probably the first date, or I don't know, second or third date, whatever the case may be. But just the hair, no, the
Hmm.
hair and the nails,
Hmm.
it's equal to that date. And that's not even to account for the other things that I spoke of, the makeup, the
You're
the
not buying
clothing they
makeup
probably
just
fucked
for a
up
date.
yesterday.
I'll have full pushback on you on that. You're not buying makeup just for a date. You're using the makeup on a date, yes. But you're not buying makeup for a date. I have to buy
It's
makeup for my wife. It's definitely not just for one
you
date.
know no you know what it is, because there's not an infinite amount of makeup. It's you have to calculate it. I know I'm gonna get really economic here, but you have to calculate it like, okay, if the
Price per
makeup costs
usage?
me, yeah, exactly, price per
Yeah.
usage. So I don't know. To me, I see it as a fair exchange, to be honest. Uh, in fact, I see the women paying more. I'm speaking in a situation where the woman actually likes you and she's willing to put in the effort for you. That's the
Okay.
scenario I'm speaking for. I'm not speaking
So
for
that would
just
imply that I would agree to that if she was regular if she was paying for the date and they're both interested in each other and she's paying for her portion of the meal, whatever it is, or her tickets or whatever it is. I would
yeah
agree with you on that being a fair exchange. But for the most part it's not. Like one of the conversations I had with Deb
yeah
was why I stopped dating, before I met her. And I was like, it was a waste of time and resources. And one of the things that like went like a light bulb that went off for is like, oh yeah, there's a lot of expenses for a man when it comes to dates. For me, I just saw it as a free meal. Just saying.
no, it's
So
true, it's true.
so I think that's part of the conversation. I think when it comes to the whole, I would agree with you. I think it's a fair exchange though when it comes to the whole process of going from dating to marriage. 'Cause, the dating part, the man has to really prove himself, and then for the marriage part, I would say the woman has to really prove herself more.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily to him, but to society as a whole, right? Like, if like for instance, and this goes into African and Caribbean culture. Whenever I've visited, friends and family, and the mom sees me, the first thing she'll say, if I like, as I'm bulking up right now and I'm working out, they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
Deb is feeding you well. That's good." If I lose weight, like when I was changing my diet a few months ago, every mother that saw me is like, "Oh, Ebere,
She's not
you
feeding
look
you.
very stuffed. Is Deborah feeding you? Is she starving you?" And Deb would be stressed
It's
out
not
every
fun.
time we go out because she's like, "Oh my gosh, she lost weight. I have to explain what's happening. I have to explain you diet." It's a lot of pressure on Deb. Like every time, like I don't care about when I go out and I'm like a little bit maga and skinny looking because I'm changing my diet. No one's gonna be like, "Oh, Ebere, you feeding yourself?" Right? If anything, when I was single, they're also just like, "Oh, Ebere, you eating? We need to give you food." But like now, it's like, Deb, what's going on with Ebere? Why is he skinny? What'd you do? Right?
Yeah, no, but it's interesting
This guy's
because
died.
the men's health is a reflection of whether or not the woman is actually probably feeding them. Like it's very interesting.
Or
I'll
taking
tell you,
care of him and so on and
or
so forth.
taking
Yeah,
care of
you're
it.
right.
So I'll give you a very good example. I remember, I think it was last year. It was during exam season. I was highly stressed and it was very competitive, right? Now I'm about 180. I'm like 181, 182.
Okay, we're the same weight now.
Yeah. Back then, I was about 140 or I think 139.
Mm.
I wasn't eating as much because
Whoa,
I know I wasn't
bro,
eating
you
as
were
much.
skinny, because we're like the same height. 140? I think I
Yeah,
was 150 when I met Deb.
I was like 140 because I wasn't eating as much because I was always studying. I never
Right.
really had time to just eat. And I remember it was very funny
140.
because
Holy
of
smokes.
I
Go
know
on.
my mom, a friend of my mom saw me and said, Jordan, how are you? Good, 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 good. Little did I know, she phones my mom and says, Jordan got really skinny? Is he eating properly? And that's all insinuating that are you feeding him?
Yep.
Because what happened was this. I got home. The first thing my mom said was she kind of breaks down and said, why are people thinking that I'm not feeding you? Like, Jordan, are you eating? And then you know what she said? I will never forget this because I remember my friend. I think my friend was on the phone. My mom was like, Jordan, hurry up, take this pill so he gain weight. I said, wow.
What?
I know. It was so funny. It was so funny. And then ever since I will never forget that because it's right. Like a man's reflection, whether or not like they're doing good, it's a reflection of
The
the woman,
homemaking
like whether or
machine.
not. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So if your man is extremely skinny, like people are gonna assume that yeah, your wife is not taking care of you.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So and especially if your son is starving, because
Hmm.
of course the son is a reflection of their mother
Hmm.
doing.
The men and boys in the family. Yeah. Are you taking
Yeah,
care of them? Yep.
are you taking care of it? They're gonna be like, okay, this the mother, the family, the parents are not taking care of this kid here.
Hmm.
Like, why is he so skinny? Why does he look like he's not eating?
Hmm.
So yeah,
On the other end of the spectrum, like if the daughter or the son is out of order or whatever, how come you're not disciplining the kids for the dad? I would say
yeah,
that. But no, you're absolutely right. It's really interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
No, but
yeah.
just
Mhm.
going back to the point. So you're speaking the relationship of when you're married. I guess when you're dating, leading to marriage. But in most cases, we don't know that. Even if you have high attraction in the beginning, right? The
Mm.
way I see it is like this. Oftentimes, of course, a woman would never think like this because society tells us that you go on a date, just look good, and then the man will pay, right? But when you really break it down and you really look at the situation, just by the hair itself, a hair can cost just $200, and a woman would do this. I'm talking if she really likes you. I'm not saying just every single day you go on, a woman will do this. No, I'm saying if she really likes you and she wants to look her best, what she's going to do, she's going to buy hair that costs like $200 itself, probably 2 days before. $200
You
already
should
right
you
there.
should clarify by saying buying wig, but usually
Okay,
wig.
yeah, yeah. So buy a wig, and then it doesn't even stop there. You have to install the wig. You have to go to a professional and install it. And she's doing this all for the date she's
Depending on
gonna
the
go
wig, but
on.
yes.
Yeah, so she's doing this all for the date she's gonna go on. So she already spent about like $300-400, whatever. That's just on the head top alone.
My
On
man
her
said
head
head
top.
top. This guy said head top. This guy's a true Toronto man. This guy said head top. Go on.
She's doing all of that just for the head top alone. And what do we have to do? Yes, you're right. We have the expectation to pay. But of course, we're not thinking of she had to pay $400 for her head top, right? All we're thinking of is okay.
You say head top.
all we're
Go on.
thinking of, all we're thinking of is this. Okay, this just costs $100. $100, $50 dinner for both of us. We're gonna get to know each other, boo, 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 and that's it. That's cool.
Okay, so you're talking about on the day of. I'm looking at it from a macro perspective in a sense of leading up to the date. Like
Okay.
you've had to have the confidence and skills and know-how and competence to even ask her out to, and then to be able to retain her attention because she probably has like 60 guys trying to hit her up. I know I'm speaking on the high end, probably like 10 guys hitting her up on the more of an average level. And so you have to be able to stand out and get to that point where she's willing to go on a date with you and then retain attention. Maybe you were using a dating app, so retain attention from the dating app for her to keep talking to you, get her phone number, so on and so forth. Have the right Instagram account to be able
But
to.
that's no monetary value. Remember, I'm
No,
looking
but
at
it's
this
still a
from
lot of effort, and it takes
yeah,
time to
it's
build those
effort.
things.
That's
So if
that
you're
that's labor. That's labor effort. But
okay, so you're talking about specific. Then
I'm looking at it from
I'm still gonna sit on the amount of gas, paying for this, so on and so forth. If that thing is really balanced, and yes, in those specific cases where it's interested in you, which is typically not the case. Like I would argue like for maybe 1 in 20, like one person would be interested in you. So for the most part, the 15 to 19 of them, you're
Yeah.
spending more. But in those cases, fine, I'll give you that. Like there is a fair exchange. There is a fair
Yeah.
exchange. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So to add more to your point, when it comes to who's putting in the most effort, 100% men. What? A
Yeah.
100% men. Exactly. And you already highlighted all the examples that we have to do in order to just try
Yeah.
to land that date, right?
Hmm.
Um, but when it comes to, of course, assuming that they both like each other, when it comes to who is spending the most
Hmm.
leading up to that date,
Hmm.
then we can make this argument,
Hmm.
but we can argue on this. But I could probably say the woman, especially if she's willing to go beyond for that
Hmm.
date.
Okay,
I
that's
can say
fair.
that. I
I
can
can
say
give you
this.
that. If it's those five, yeah, you could say that. Those five out of the 20, you could say that for sure.
Yeah, and but a lot of people, what tends to happen is this: you have guys who are choosing women who are that the women are not choosing them. Like the women are not choosing the guy that the guy's choosing. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So what tends to happen now is the women are not going to put as much effort into their looks. Yeah, they're going to look good, but not as much as if they wanted to go out with the guy they really wanted to go out with. Because it's like, okay, this guy's going to pay for dinner. Well, I'm just going to go for the free dinner. But I don't really like him. But unless we start choosing, and this is why you have to really ask questions, right? You don't have to, you can't just look at her beauty and think that she's the one. You have to really
Right.
ask the questions in order to not get finesse. And you can also feel the chemistry whether or not the woman you'll tell if you're confused whether a woman likes you or not, that yeah, she doesn't like you.
I say that
If
all
you're
the time.
confused, yeah,
One
if
of the
you're
things that
confused,
attracted me to Deb was the fact that she wasn't playing games. She'd say, "Oh, university graduate. What's your background? What are you doing? What do you do on your spare time? What are your hobbies?" Like she was just like checking things. Well, first of all, she already interrogated me without me knowing.
that reminds me of a TikTok of how dating looks like in your 30s.
Yeah, she was. Well, she was 25 when she met me. I was 30.
Yeah,
And she just asked a series of questions. She wasn't playing games. I said, "Oh, we'll come over and watch Avengers: Infinity War." Plot twist: we didn't finish Avengers: Infinity War. I don't go into detail. You guys don't need to know, but we definitely
yeah,
didn't finish Avengers: Infinity War. I think it took us 2 different days to do that. But all this to
yeah.
say, huh?
No, I'm just saying, yeah, like where the problem is just that like in most cases men are just choosing the women that don't want them.
Yeah.
That's the reason
Well,
why we're spending a lot of money.
I would break it down to two things. I think that men don't know how to choose the women that want them. That's one aspect. And the
Yeah.
second aspect is what was I watching with what was Deb watching or was I watching with Deb? Trying to remember. There was something that she was watching. It was a movie. It wasn't The Notebook.
Hmm.
Trying to remember right now. Give me a second. It was a super corny movie. I'm debating on texting her to ask her what it is.
No,
It's gonna
no,
bother me.
no, I'll speak, and if you get it, just let me know. So the reason I say that is because I'm a perfect example of this, right? Like I've had women who I'm not attracted to, but who wanted to go on a date with me, but I just didn't pay no mind to that. And I've had other cases where I was attracted to the woman, but they weren't attracted to me, but I wanted to make that work.
Mm,
And then here I am going on a date with one who is not even really attracted to me. So you can
mm,
kind of see the problem in that. But if I chose the women who I was kind of attracted to, but they chose me, I wouldn't pay as much. And I'll give a really good example. I went on a date. Uh, I don't remember when. It was recent though. And
mm,
then she would always say like, and I kid you, this is what she said. She was like, "Oh, I'm having such a good time." I'm like, "Yeah, me too." She said, "Oh, do you smoke?" And I said, no, sometimes, not really, to be honest. No, I really don't smoke at all."
Oh,
And then
I
she,
remember. I remember. I remember.
okay,
I
okay,
remember. All right,
okay,
I'm gonna text her. I remember the movie now. She helped me jog my memory. Titanic. It was Titanic. I was watching. I was watching. I was not. I was. I was in the. I was doing my workout,
Yeah.
and I was also eating. And Titanic is like 3.5 hours. So like in my workout, along with like my warm up is like 2 hours, and then me eating. I had enough time to partially watch Titanic. And watching Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic, I forgot the character he's playing. I don't need to remember. It's not anime,
Hmm.
it's not video games, it's not comic books. I don't need to really remember. But he's just doing all these things and being romantic and wooing her from her fiance and telling her you don't love him, you want to be with someone else, and he's painting her and taking her to all these adventurous things and telling her she
Hmm.
deserves more than what he's giving her, which is a lot.
And he's poor. And
Nicholas
he's poor.
rich. Exactly. But that's kind of leads into how a lot of young women think romance, like love and marriage, is supposed to be fun and exciting and new things happen every day. No, it's not. For the most part, Deb and I are at home in the condo and we just make jokes with each other. Watch some
Yeah.
anime.
Yeah.
Listen, I build a shelf for her, which is like over here. And she cooks, clean. Not that much exciting. The most exciting thing that happened was when we went to When Brothers Speak, with you, and
Yeah.
an event here in Toronto. And the other thing was picking up one of the youth that we both support from Ottawa. So for those that are not from Canada, driving to Ottawa is like 4.5 hours. We have to do that in a day drive, right? We ate, packed our stuff, went to Ottawa. The youth didn't know how to pack her stuff properly, and she's kind of like a hoarder because she's never really had to move like that. So Deb had
Hmm.
to help her repack all her stuff. They packed in the car. I took a nap because like I have to do all the driving. Helped her repack all the stuff, and then we had to bring the youth back to Toronto. So that's another 4.5 hours. Keep in mind, we're in Canada, Toronto, Canada. Well, Canada East Coast. So there's snow and wind, and it's not it's people don't understand, but it's like midnight at 5 p.m. At 5 p.m. it's dark, and we're driving home with minimal, lights on the road, and that's the most exciting thing we did. For the most part, marriage is not gonna be, oh, let's do this and spontaneously do that and go on walks. First of all, you guys want to just go out and eat every day? You know how much money that costs? And then he's probably gonna be able to pay for everything. So where's he getting this money from if you're just hanging out and doing all these adventurous things? Shut up. Marriage marriage and love is not marriage and long-term relationships are not that exciting. And so, like I said, so I could see how a lot of young women think that it's like marriage and whoever the what's the one I'm looking for, your right person, going to be fun and exciting and adventurous and spontaneous. Like, no, like I am spontaneous, but we're not going to just do something every day. Relax, calm down. I
Yeah,
have
which
video
is
games
why.
to play.
Yeah, which is
uh,
why you better pick the person who chooses you.
exactly.
Okay.
And then more so on Leonardo DiCaprio's character side, he's constantly proving himself to her. So we already have this
Oh.
unhealthy dynamic of the man doing all of this and convincing her and being romantic and telling her. And I've been watching a lot of videos lately of young men on YouTube talking about how they're single and lonely. And I've seen so many young men talk about, they're seeing like they may be talking to this woman who there's, more or less simping for, and she's keeping him in the friend zone because he's giving her attention, which is
Hmm.
currency for women. Like women can't breathe without attention, like how
Sure.
we can't breathe without respect. And they're constantly trying to convince her, just like in these movies, like in The Diary and Titanic, that you deserve better, and I'm going to prove myself that you should be with me instead of him. Like, and this is going back on what you're saying. You're choosing the ones that don't want you. If she's engaged, leave her. If she wants to leave, let her leave.
Yeah, but one thing I realized is that when you choose a woman who chooses you, you're not going to spend as much. And you need to
I
think
agree.
about it because yeah, because
Yeah.
I remember when I chose a woman who chose me, literally, I kid you not, she would say, "Oh, if you smoke, let me go buy you weed," and I'm just like, "Wait, what?" And it was such a good feeling.
When a woman is investing in you, it's a different conversation. But I
It's
think
a
for a lot of
different
young men,
conversation. Yeah,
they don't know what that looks like.
yeah, yeah. And it was
But
like,
I
"Are
think
you
what also
hungry?"
plays,
And
sorry, I
yeah,
just wanted to add what plays a large role in that, to go back on Spy Family, is that you have to get to the point where you're your own version of Loid slash Twilight. Where you have the confidence, the charisma, the competency, the ability to be in control and to be able to lead in any given situation to get to that point. Because you can see, going back, I know it's not the whole homemaker machine is not a healthy paradigm for a lot of young women, but you can see how Yor was really willing to prove on herself as a wife and as a mother because of how Loid is yeah, leading with his masculinity and his leadership skills, so that Yor has someone to look forward to in terms of how she wants to better herself. She's like, I want to be a better wife for Anya and Loid. Well, probably Loid and Anya, whatever order we want to go with. But that is a driving point for her to improve. But if you're not improving, why should you see? Who the fuck are you? Tell me to go to the gym. You're fat. And you're playing video games all day. Shut up. And just coming
Yep.
from a gamer, so don't think I'm against gaming. But yeah, if you're not doing your thing, why should she aspire to be better? She's gonna aspire for the most part, and I see that with Deb. They're gonna aspire based off how you're moving forward.
Yep. I agree.
Right? Like I started working out, now Deb is looking to working out right now. She's like, oh, this guy's really taking care of himself. I need to step up in terms of taking care of myself. And Deb's already
Do you guys go together?
No, we would. How would I word this? The way I work on, the way she works out is very different.
Yeah.
Also, like this goes into the whole. Now we're talking about Titanic and the Notebook. This also goes into issues when it comes to like social media and this whole like hashtag couple goals, which is like, oh, we need to work out together and eat together, and nah, not really. We can just do our separate thing. We don't have to do everything together. Like, relax.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the way she likes like rhythmic stuff to work out and running. First of all, if I'm running a lot, and it's important for me to have cardio. Like if I'm running a lot, I'm definitely gonna lose all the weight I have. And it was hard for me to get to this point to 180 or whatever. So me running, that's not it, bruv. 1, 2.
Wait, so that's interesting. So you tell yourself not to run because you don't want to lose the weight?
Yeah, I'm not against building cardio. So like one of the things I do a lot of burpees. Like I do things to
Okay.
build my cardio, but like doing a lot of running. Like, if I ran the same amount that she does, I would lose weight. And I lose weight I think the term is ectomorph. So you and I are what would be considered ectomorphs. There's ectomorphs, mesomorphs, and I forgot the third one. But essentially, ectomorphs are people who are very slender. They don't get big easily. They usually have like very small frame bodies. They don't gain mass very easily. Versus like I think like, oh yeah, ectomorphs, endomorphs, mesomorphs. I think mesomorphs are people who naturally build muscle very quickly. Like Deb is more of the type that
No, I
very
think no,
quickly.
no. I think I'm that because what happened is okay. So the okay. So I
You build muscle
was
quickly?
yeah, really quickly.
Okay.
I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story. So it was March. Was it March? It was March. I was at my lowest because there's something personal that happened to me. I was about, you won't believe it, but I was about at my lowest. I was 129.
Fuck, how
Yeah,
the
I
fuck
know.
get to
I know.
129? That's
I
possible?
Yeah, it was possible. It was possible.
Damn. Go on.
So I was 129, and then I remember I stayed at 130 until what month is this? Until July. So I just stayed at 130 for like the longest.
Hmm.
And then what happened was I came across certain influencers and YouTubers, and they just really spoke to me. They just really spoke to me that just get your body right. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do it. And
Hmm.
I was tracking my progress with my best friend, and I was gaining 10 pounds every single month. It was absolutely ridiculous. So
Okay.
remember the time when you're like, Jordy, you got bigger.
Hmm.
We've just seen each other last month. It wasn't it wasn't a while ago.
Was it last month?
It
Before
was
your brother?
it was either a month and a half ago or 2 months the max.
Okay.
And it was at it was the man's thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember the group
Yeah, when
the
brothers
man
speak,
group?
yeah.
Yeah, so it was
Oh, you're
that. And
talking
then
about the man say, okay, yeah, at where I work, yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and that is because if I realized that if I eat 3 times a day,
Mhm.
I gain weight really fast.
Mm.
But before, the reason why I was always at 130 or 140 the longest is because I only ate one big meal a day and that's it.
Mm.
Yeah, I've realized that. And then I recently just started working 2 months ago, every single, at least 6 times a week.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, man, I just look good.
Yeah, you look good. I'll give you that. But yeah, so
Yeah.
what I was getting at was I don't know how we got to mesomorphs, ectomorphs, and endomorphs, but yeah. So I was gaining weight. We're talking about Titanic. I almost said titanium.
Yeah. No, we're speaking about the fact how like you lose a lot of weight when you're running, but
Oh
Deb
yeah,
doesn't.
you're asking about us like working out together. Now I remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I can't do the same stuff that she does. So I need to do things that like I can still build cardio, but I'm more focused on bulking up and like gaining mass. That's been my thing lately. But
Why are
yes,
you scared to, but why are you scared to lose weight when you're losing unwanted fat?
I'm still willing to do that through my own form of cardio, but like it's one step at a time. Like I also
Okay.
have a personal trainer now, so my main thing is actually just building mass because that's been the hardest thing for me.
Really? You don't build muscle really easily?
I'm very physically strong. Like when you see me, like I don't know if you ever see me lift stuff. I can lift very heavy things. Like I'm very physically strong. I have a lot of muscle density, but I'm not big.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's been my thing. So it's not just Deb wants me to bulk up, but I also want to bulk up a little bit too. I think like 190, 200 is fine enough for me. I don't need to be like 210, 220. Like, what the fuck am I gonna do with that? Like, what am I lifting?
210?
An
Yeah.
Iron Man suit? Nah, relax. I don't need to be that big. But like about 190, 200 is good enough for me. And I'm at like 180. So the remaining 10 to 20 pounds is the last challenge. But anyways, so yeah, me just working on myself inspires Deb to work on herself more. And so you have to get to that point where just like we see with Loid and your you want to get to a point where she's, I guess you can see looking at you in admiration for how you're progressing and how you're building on yourself, right? That's what you
Mm-hmm.
want in your marriage, and you also want someone to respect you for that too. Where also if something goes wrong, she's not gonna be like, nigga, who the fuck you think you is? Don't come talk to me like that, Ray Tay Tay. Like, no one wants that type of energy. So you have
Yeah.
to find someone that respects you. But like a lot of the stuff that we watch, we don't see that. Where um, the man is respected. Like the thing that the Disney fairy tale that we're always shown, like I said, even though it's not the same thing, but like in Titanic or any of these Disney movies, like Aladdin. Aladdin, love one of my favorite video games. Along with I love the movie, but like it's him constantly trying to prove himself to Princess Jasmine, right? If we look at these
Yep.
things, it's constantly the man trying to prove himself that he's worthy of being with her, and all she has to do is sit there and look pretty. She doesn't have to do anything. So that plays a role in terms of how our relationships are too, in the real world. That was just something that Deb and I very much struggled with in the sense of like at one point she thought that she was without flaws.
This is why I love the movie Beauty and the Beast. I love that movie.
I think people misinterpret Beauty and the Beast a lot, but I think it's a good movie too. I think
I
people
like
miss the
it because
message.
yeah, because here you have the reason I like it is because, and I don't want to get too much into this, but it's because the beast knows he's a beast. So he doesn't have to go out of his way to say, "Oh, you know what? Let me just let me
Appease
clean
her.
your shoes. Let me
Right.
please you." Like he knows he's a beast. So
Right.
he doesn't have to act like Aladdin, or he doesn't have to act like Prince Romeo, or
Yeah, yeah, I
so
get you. Yeah.
yeah.
Or
So
like Leonardo DiCaprio's character in
he's just
Titanic.
acting
Right.
like his nature,
Yeah, he's
and
being
then
himself.
he's just being himself, and that's the reason why I really like that
Scornful self,
story.
but
Yeah,
yes. Mhm.
yeah. So very interesting.
I think the issue with that movie though is that like a lot of young women think that they need to tame the beast of the man that they want. And it's like the thing with Beast is that he wanted to change himself.
Yeah.
You can't. I think we talked about this before. Like you can't come in with like your Milwaukee power drill and come and do I'm a fix a man. You can't fix a man. Same way men can't fix a woman. You can't fix anybody. You have to. The only thing you can fix is yourself. The only thing you can prove on is yourself. The only battle that is there to fight is within yourself, not with someone else. Even if that person's your wife. Like there's things that like Deb and I may disagree on, but at the end of the day, like that's if Deb wants that thing to change, or if Deb wants those things to change with me, it's on us as individual people, and then for us to make those adjustments for ourselves to be able to do that. Oh yeah. Kind of going back, I just wanted to really touch on the point of Anya and just her being a telepath. We forget that kids are very observant as much as like they're small. We are their world. The adults in their lives are their world. And when something is everything to you, you're gonna notice every little detail. You're gonna notice every little detail. Like when I like I said, when I was falsely accused, leading up to that and after that, the youth already knew the truth. They already know, like, Ed, you never did anything. We know you did it. We know she's lying. In a sense, one could say, we know mom is lying. We know, we can see, we saw you every day. We know who is more likely to lie between the two of you. Even more so than that, they said, like when I told them like I was having issues with certain coworkers, in the community center, they're like, we know who it was. I know you did your
The kid
best
said
to
that.
make sure. Yeah, I was surprised that they said that because I did my best to make sure that they were comfortable. In many ways, they're my kids. They see me as a father. So I'm doing my best to make sure that they're comfortable. They are my priority. Irrespective of professionalism, they're my priority. I want them to feel safe and feel comfortable, right? But for them, they're like, we know you weren't getting along with her, or we know you weren't getting along with him. We knew. We didn't say anything because we know that you're trying your best for us, but we knew you weren't getting along with them.
Yeah. So do you remember what I said before? I said how Lloyd represents the mysterious nature of men,
Ooh, I
whereas
like where you're going. Go off again, Jordan. You're
oh
on one
my
today.
God. No, it's not going to be much of a rant, but I just want to say, and your represents the emotional state of a woman. Kids, really interesting thing about kids is that if you were to take off the telepath, actually no, that symbolizes the fact that kids are just highly self-aware.
Yeah, in many ways,
So
they pick
so
up
you
on things.
have
They're very observant.
so you have mysteriousness, emotional state, and then you just have the self-awareness. They have really
Mhm.
good self-awareness, and not only that, the thing about kids also is the fact that because they're self-aware, we we don't really see them as such, and that's because we
You don't
think
really
that
see them as what?
we don't really see them as people who have very high self-awareness. So
Right,
we tend to try to doubt what they're seeing because they're kids
right,
and because they don't have much life experience.
right.
But in fact, they see things for what it is, whereas like we see things for what things ought to be. And what I mean by that is, a kid can see someone clearly abusing someone else, but we're going to see that as no, they just love me.
True,
Does that make
true.
sense?
Yeah, no, that's true. They're very they're innocent. They're very black and white. Like this is happening. How
Yeah,
come
this
no
is
one's
happening.
saying
Be
anything?
like mommy or daddy is hitting each other,
Yeah,
and then some adults would just be like, no, 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 no. That's just how they're communicating. They're
that's
just
how they express
expressing.
themselves. Right. Mommy
Exactly.
and daddy love each other. And
Look
so,
at them.
and I sorry, I just wanted to kind of speak on that. And so when you tell a child that because things are so black and white for them, that means that translates to them, which is why you see a lot of kids who grew up in abused households either become an abuser or an abusee, if you will.
Yeah.
In a sense of this is how mom and dad express love, so this is how love is expressed.
Yep.
This is the only way I understand how love is expressed. You have some women who are asking to get um I think YouTube is very sensitive when it comes to these words for those that are watching. So I'm going to use ulterior words. So we're going to try and use these words. I took it
Mhm.
from taking it from Abba and Preach when some women um, ask that you do domestic boo boos to them, right? When they ask you to hurt them, because they're like, if you really love me, you'll hurt me physically, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't want to do that, but that's the only way they understand how love is. Or just going back on Johnny Depp, he grew up in an abusive household, so therefore the way he understands love is abuse onto him, pain onto him. Hmm.
Yeah, and it's very interesting you say that because I always want to relate this to life experiences.
Hmm.
So I remember when I was seeing this one person, and she used to tell me something like, whenever I get really happy and I speak a lot around my parents, they would tell me to shut up. She told me this before, and it was very interesting that she said that. I'm like, why? He's like, they just told me to shut up.
Right.
They didn't want me to be so expressive. And the reason I say that is because one time, we're on a Uber, right? We're
Hmm.
on a Uber, so we're both sitting in the back. And then I think I was just speaking about something that made me happy,
Right.
right? I was being, as you know, people may
Expressive.
not know, I
Mostly
was being
expressive.
very exactly, I was being very expressive. And
Hmm.
I kid you not, she said, and I heard her, and it was so subconscious. It was
Hmm.
weird, but she
Hmm.
was like, "Shut up,"
There we go.
and then I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I remember having a conversation about her, with her about this, and then she said, "Yeah,
Did
I
she
don't know why."
remember?
Yeah, she remembers. She said, "Honestly, I don't know why I said that." And we can have I created a space where we can have such dialogue, and she could be really open with me. So she
Right.
told me that she told me that she doesn't know why she said that, but
Hmm.
I knew exactly why she said that, and I didn't want to be her therapist, so I just
That's
left
not
it
your
at
job,
that.
my G. That's
It's
not
not
your
my
job.
job. It's not my job, so I just left it at that. But I knew exactly why she said that, and it
Right.
was just very interesting to see exactly how the effect parents can have on kids, right,
There
without
we
them
go.
realizing it.
There we go. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, that's what it is. And the thing that we also don't take into account is that, and I see myself do this time and time again, is that, 1 second. Yeah, sorry. The heat's gonna end up being loud. Is so like we're in winter for those of us, for those that don't understand. So we need heat, but at the same time, if I have heat on, it means that there's gonna be background noise. So I have to just tell Dad that, tell Deb that. But anyways, yeah. So one of the things I kind of wanted to bring up was I do this time and time again, which is I'm so hard on myself. Like one of the things I talked about with my therapist is I'm very hard on myself, very critical. I can be very critical of others, which I've been really mindful of. I've also been working on not being so critical on myself. There's so many times where I feel like I'm for like the young people I support, I feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm doing a bad job. I'm not checking in with them enough. I haven't gotten certain things done for them as much as I feel. Oh, lost Jordan again. Think his phone died. Yes, sir. You're back. All right. So I gotta do some editing again. This
My
guy,
bad, man.
we need to get you some portable chargers.
Yeah, my bad, man.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So luckily, I remember what I was saying. So what I was getting at was I find myself very hard on myself when it comes to kids, on myself and just otherwise. And one of the things that like I feel like when it comes to kids, I feel like the youth I support is like I'm not doing enough for them. I haven't reached out to them enough. I haven't gotten this form done for them, and so on and forth, so on and so forth. I haven't seen them very much this month. I haven't texted them in a while, and I'll be really hard on myself when it comes to these things. And you can see this with Anya, especially during the Eden School interview, around like episode 5 or so. And you can see Anya's like, yeah, my parents are 10 out of 10. Or sorry, 100 out of 100, the perfect parents. They're great parents. I love them so much. And, as much as I'm hard on myself for the young people Deb and I support, and even for myself, when I think back on, some of the faults when it comes to my parents, I give them like, at worst, I give them 8 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10 or 100 out of 100. And I think we often forget that when it comes to kids is that they don't have, and this kind of go, and I'm bringing that because there's a point that you brought up when it comes to, what was it? You were saying how we don't realize how, oh yeah, that was it. How us as adults see things very differently compared to kids. And for kids, it's very simple for them. It's like, do mom and dad love me? Do mom and dad make me feel special? Like in the mission SS over, where Loid had to pretend to be Bond man and everything. That was it for Anya. It's like 10 out of 10. That I know you make mistakes and sometimes you make me cry, but like you're still 10 out of 10. And I say that about my parents too. Like they had their faults. There's some mistakes that they made with me, but you know what? You guys are still 10 out of 10.
Exactly. I agree. I think that the thing with kids that's very interesting is the fact that because they haven't been conditioned by societal pressure just yet, they can afford to be literal with parents and other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we parents, us parents, well, not me, I'm not a parent yet, but parents in general, they see the world through their own lens, through their own views, and they try to enforce that on the kids actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, their way of thinking, of course, and that's natural, right? You want your
Mm-hmm.
kids to grow up to be at least, if not better than who you are
Mm-hmm.
as a person. But the mistake comes where you add the societal pressure on the kid. And I can give you a really good example on that. So you know how like certain people would be like, well, we can't play with this kid here because he is a terrible role model. He's a bad
Mm-hmm.
kid.
Mm. There
But
we
there's a
go. Terrible
reason
role model,
why,
bad kid. I like
yeah,
that
yeah, but
analogy.
but there's a reason why that kid wants to play with that trouble kid you say they are, is because they saw something that the parents didn't. Like they really saw this person just wanted a friend. Because remember, in most, like for example, the Naruto situation, right? Naruto was a
Okay.
troublemaker because he didn't get attention.
You're right.
But someone like Hinata saw something else.
Mm-hmm.
Hinata saw that, well, no, this guy, he's not a bad person. He helped me from the bullies. He's actually a really good person. But even before that, I was curious enough because he didn't seem trouble to me.
Mm.
You see what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
kids see these things, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't, right? Adults don't.
Mm.
Adults, what we see is,
We have
okay,
preconceived notions, right?
exactly. We have our own ideas of how these kids are. Like, okay, this
Right.
guy's writing graffiti. He's a terrible person. I'm not
Right.
even going to understand why he's writing that graffiti. I'm just going to say he's bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is how
So
Anya was able to make friends with I forgot the girl's name, the other little girl, and even
is it
indirectly
Stella?
with
No,
Desmond.
Stella, right? Is it Stella?
No, Stella are the greats, the
Oh,
stars. I forgot her name, but anyways, she was able to make friends with her, and how she's able to kind of build a relationship with Damien is because, yeah, kids can see through things. If we went to like a high institute, what's a big university like Ivy League school, we'd be intimidated by the students, right? You and I think I would to at least some extent. Like, oh shit, these are either the kids who their parents own the Fortune CEO company, the Fortune 500 companies. But for Anya, it's like, school, bro. Don't tell you guys. Other
yeah.
kids. That's what it is.
Yeah,
And that's
and
what she's
that's a
able to.
really good example. That's a really good
Yeah.
example. And that's because we've been conditioned up to this point that
Mhm.
we can't just approach people on that status.
Yeah,
But when you're a kid, you don't see it like that.
exactly.
So no, that's a very good point. That's a really good point you just mentioned. Really good point.
Thank you. Um, the other point I wanted to kind of bring up was just there's two parts I wanted to bring up. One was that I wanted to kind of touch on just the whole dynamic of your and Fiona, and just your feeling that she's constantly, incompetent, and that someone's out to threaten her for her position. And I really just it spoke a lot on some of my experiences, with Deb and I coming together, and Deb worrying about certain women or certain women giving her trouble for being with me. These aren't women that are friends, by the way, just so you know. These are exes. Just had to make that clear before it's like, yo, bro.
As a player.
Nah, I'm really not, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to play. Bro, let me pull this out right now. This is the only playing I want to do. It's on the PlayStation remote or it's on an arcade stick. I'm not gonna pick up my arcade stick because it's heavy and it's gonna make
This
noise.
man's a Gaddis.
Nah, I'm really not, bro. I'm just trying to be home. I told you, stop dating. I was just like, I'm gonna just stay home. It's a waste of time when you're troublesome and so draining. And that's bro, just watching just um watching Loid's interaction with Fiona and just her giving him a hard time because of I just like just having a lot of women to interact with, it just whether whether I'm related to them or not, it just creates a lot of spice. Too much seasoning. I just want salt. But it just creates so much just tumultuous energy that you just have to learn how to navigate. And it's not hard. I have to give so much points to Loid on how he's able to handle things with such good tact. But at the same time, he has to deal with you're constantly feeling insecure because of the quote unquote better version Fiona, and Fiona thinking quote unquote she's a better version. But I don't know if I don't think it was you I had this conversation with, but like just self-awareness goes so far. And it's crazy how Fiona, Twilight, the secretary with the white hair, thinks that she's such a good match for Loid, but it's like you don't even understand Loid as a person that well. You just think you are. And secondly, you don't even realize how intimidating you are to both your coworkers and Loid. You think that you're this super soft, feminine, loving woman, but like you're not. Everyone's afraid of you. You want this thing, but you want this type of man, but does this man want you? Are you the things that this man is looking for? Huh?
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Do you see I'm spitting?
No, I was saying you want this thing.
You want this thing, but it's like does this thing want you back? And that's the reason why like Kevin Samuels popped off so much. R.I.P. is because he's like, this man that you want, does he want you? Which we don't have this conversation of, and this goes for both men and women. It's like you want this type of woman or you want this type of man. Does this type of man want you, or are you moving in a way? Are you moving in a way to facilitate finding a man like that?
You know what? I'm gonna say
Find a woman
something.
like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something on this topic. Uh, I think that, and I really believe this. Women big. You know how you often hear the difference between men and women, how they're always in competition. Like men and women always have this fierce competition. You know how you always hear about that?
Men and women have a competition, huh?
Yeah, you know how you always can you hear me?
You made me spill the water. I can hear you. I'm just trying to understand what you're trying to say.
Okay. So, for example, when Kevin Samuel popped off, right, you always heard this debate between men and women. Like there was always this invisible competition between the two gender.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that, and I really believe this, that the competition, there's really no competition between men and women. I think that women biggest competitions are women themselves. So for example, with the men, like our competition is not even a woman, it's actually other men.
Mm-hmm.
So we often compare ourselves to other men. Like, okay, this guy makes money. Okay, he makes more money than I do. Okay, I got to work harder. He's bigger than I am. Okay, I got to get stronger. So
Mm-hmm.
for example, with me, I remember the reason I got big also was because I seen my best friend. He put on 20 pounds and he looked really good. And I got motivated from that. It was a really healthy competition. And I told him, even till today, I told him this. I said, one of the reasons why I decided to gain 40 pounds and probably 10 or 20 pounds of muscle is because I saw you put on weight and I saw that and you look really good. You motivated me. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, oh, really? So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that the same thing works for women. So, for example, you just mentioned the relationship between Yor and Fiona.
Mm-hmm.
They're in competition with each other for the
Right.
man that they want.
Right.
So Yor thinks that she's lacking because Fiona is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Fiona thinks she's lacking because
I would say
clearly
feel like she's lacking because she doesn't have
she's
Loid. I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, she
she
doesn't
lacks
have
self
Lloyd.
awareness to realize why she doesn't have Loid. But go on.
Yeah, so she thinks she's lacking because there's something about this woman
Hmm.
that Lloyd wants that she doesn't know. And that's where the lack of self-awareness comes from.
Right.
But because she's kind of self-aware to a certain extent, she realizes she makes a conclusion. She infers that, oh no, it's because she's beautiful. That's probably why, you know, Lloyd wants her.
Hmm.
So there's this competition between the two women that I think that's very interesting.
Hmm.
And I think that people should understand that it's not a man and woman thing. It's usually just a woman thing.
Or a
The
man
same
man
way
thing.
it's exactly
Same
the same
sex,
way it's a
same gender
man
type
man
thing.
thing.
Yeah, I could see you on
Yeah,
that.
because women, because in society today, I'm telling you this right now, women know that's not hard to get a man.
No.
They
Yeah.
know.
But to
It's
keep one though
but yeah, to keep one, but
is different.
they know. I'm telling you, they know.
Yeah,
It's
for
not hard
sure.
to get one.
No, absolutely not. And that's always the case. But it's the question is how can you keep one, right? That's the
How do you
issue.
keep
And
one?
that goes into we'll come back to the whole like women worrying about
You know what it is? It's not even just the fact that how to keep one, is how to keep the man they actually want. That's the thing.
yeah. No, that's what I meant. That's what I mean. The one that you
Yeah,
actually want how to keep him. Because other women will want him too, right? And how does what makes him
yeah.
want to come back to you? Especially since his value maintains itself or increases. So how can you curtail yourself to his specific needs? Which that's one of the main things that both that is the being able to curtail themselves to both of them are trying to curtail themselves to the needs and wants of Loid, and that is the same thing that Yor feels insecure about, and it's the same thing that Fiona, the white-haired secretary slash Nightfall, what she's leaning into to be able to take Loid from Yor is the whole being able to retain him. But the thing that Fiona lacks is that like you're not asking yourself if you're actually having everything Loid is looking for.
Yeah, remember what she does, what Fiona does is that she just brings up the most basic skills ever and says, "Okay, well,
Interesting.
I
What makes you say
yeah,
that? Go on. I like that.
well, yeah. Do you remember seeing the examples? Okay, so she was like, I can cook better than her. Look, I'm cooking.
Right.
Uh,
Cooking, cleaning,
yeah,
washing
cooking,
clothes. Yeah.
cleaning, and she does it very fast and logically. But what she doesn't
Secretary
understand,
work. Hmm.
yeah, but what she doesn't understand is the way she like, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. It is going to sound extremely corny, but it's the way she's doing it that's wrong. And I know this does not
Interesting.
make any
No,
sense.
I actually
Okay,
like this. Go on. Explain more on that.
okay,
What do you
so
mean?
there's a difference between when your cooks, even though the food is bad, and when
Hmm.
she cooks, even though the food's amazing, is that there's no emotional component, the nature and feeling behind the activity. So,
Well,
for
what's the
example,
difference? Mm.
I'll give you the difference. So when you're cooked, right? It was when she I think when she asked the advice of I forgot
Are
the
you talking
couple's
about the
name.
homemade stew?
Yeah, the homemade stew.
Right.
Because she was not a good cook
Hmm.
and she actually made something. She tried. Both
Hmm.
Anya and Lloyd seen the effort. She tried and it actually came out tasting really good.
Right.
There's just so more. It's just a beautiful thing to see, as opposed to if this woman who I have no emotional connection to
Hmm.
comes around and just makes a five star restaurant type food. Yeah, it's gonna be good, but
Hmm.
that's it. There's no emotion with the food involved in that food that makes it even taste amazing. Like it's gonna taste amazing. Like for example,
Yeah.
I could give you a really it's the emotional aspect that ties within the food. So my
Hmm.
mom could just make rice and pondu like cassava leaf,
Hey,
right?
pondu. I just had that today before we met. Eh? I had some
I had
pondu
it
and
today too.
fried saltfish. Hey,
I had
we
it
are
today
going to gain weight today.
too.
By the
So I had
grace
it
of
today
God and all
too.
that is pondu, we will gain weight today. Go on, my brother. Eh?
Yeah,
Preach.
so I had it today too. So the last time I ate pondu, I don't remember. It was like months ago. But
Wow.
oh
We're not
man,
arrested. Pondu's not getting
we're
arrested.
not being arrested. Don't worry, guys. Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
go on.
So she made it today, and it just tasted so amazing. And
Hmm.
I've always told my mom this. I always said, "Mom, I'll take your food over 5-star restaurants type food."
Hmm.
And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yes, especially pondu and rice.
Hey.
If I want a homemade meal, like I just want to feel happy,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna go to McDonald's and grab a Big Mac, even though like that can also make me happy. But if I
Hmm.
really want to maximize my happiness, it's pondu and rice.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So your had that. She had the homemade meal, but then the key point is what I'm trying to say
The
is
love behind
there
it.
is what?
The love behind it.
There was a love and the emotional aspect behind it.
Right.
So Fiona didn't have that. But
Yeah.
if she did have the emotional aspect towards it and the
Hmm.
love behind it, then
Hmm.
of course the 5-star food would have been better than her food, right?
And I think that's a good the love aspect and the emotions behind it. Well, more we could just call it love to put it all encompassing. It makes me think of how Loid keeps saying, yes, Fiona would be able to discipline
Yep.
Anya better than Yor, but Yor is a better mother and parent.
And
It's a
you
love
have to
aspect
understand
again.
why he said that. He's
Hmm.
saying this. Fiona is more logical,
Hmm.
but your is more I guess you could kind of say emotional,
Hmm.
not in a negative way, like in a
Hmm.
very nurtured way
Hmm.
that's needed for the development of a child.
Mm.
And
It's
that's
true.
what's important, right?
There you go. It's true. It, Anya feels safe. Anya does not feel. Anya knows that Fiona's in love with her dad. She doesn't feel
Yep.
safe around her.
And that's a perfect. She does not feel safe,
Yeah.
even though on paper, if you were to read it on paper, like who's the better, I guess, quote unquote mother,
Hmm.
based
Fiona
on
by
it's going to be
the numbers.
Fiona.
Yeah. But and then
By
also, sorry, I just want to add, even Loid is intimidated by Fiona. The one of the things he
Yep.
said that this is a very ambitious woman. Everyone's intimidated by her, including Loid. He's like, yo, like even because he can't read her mind, so he says something very caring towards her. She glares at him, even though she's not meaning to, because she doesn't know, she doesn't have the self awareness to know how to attract the man that she wants, aka Loid. She
Yeah.
wards him. She wards him off.
Yeah, and remember, it's not even just the ambition that makes her scary.
Hmm.
It's her attitude.
Exactly, her aggressive, masculine everything is just it's not alluring to Loid. It's not giving the right image that you wanted to Loid. So yeah, you have to ask yourself, once again, the person I'm trying to attract, whether it's the woman or the man or whatever, am I doing the right things to attract the person I want?
Yeah,
Am I a,
exactly.
am I a Yor or am I a Fiona? Right? They both
And
wanted the same man, but like, yeah, even just kind of going back, even the way he noticed even though she's always worried about being like a masculine meathead, is Loid noticed how beautiful and soft she was,
yeah,
and then how easily she was able to get along with Anya.
you know what it is? It's Fiona is gonna have to find someone who is willing to
See
accept that
past
form
it.
of love.
Interesting. See that form of love. Okay.
That
What do
form
you
of
mean?
love. Okay, so the fact that because this is how remember this is who she is. You can't change someone based on who they are and how they're going to love someone. Right. So
Okay.
she's a bit callous with her approach, but she thinks that's fine. Like this is how she expresses herself.
Okay. See where go on.
You see what I'm saying? So she expresses herself by, from our point of view, being callous, but she
Right.
doesn't think she's callous. So
Right.
she's just gonna have to find someone who can match that type of energy.
Right.
Because there are, of course, there are other men who are definitely way more callous than she is in that
Right.
aspect. So she's gonna have to
So
find that.
someone who
But
can kind of
Lloyd
see
is,
past that, just like
yeah,
how
someone.
Loid can see past like
It's not really seeing past it because when you're seeing past it, that's a form of excuse, right? It's a form of no, it's a form of compromising. When you say past that, it's someone who can accept that.
yeah, so that's
Someone,
what I mean. Like you can see what they mean by their actions. Like when she glares, you understand why she's glaring. That's
yes,
the sort of thing I mean.
it's not that okay. Whoa, she's she mad? Is she does she want to kill me? Or no. It's because this is her form of saying I love you. Even though it's
Exactly.
from our
Exactly. So it's
perspective,
one, yeah,
it could be wrong, right? From our perspective, it could have been like, no, I think she's mad at me, extremely mad at me because
exactly.
look how she's
Which
looking
is
at me.
what Loid thinks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yep.
that's this is and kind of going back on Loid. This is some of the conversations I had with Deb. You know, and some of those experiences with like previous exes and whatnot. You know, Deb would worry like I know it's not the case now, but there was a point where Deb wasn't watching anime and wasn't gaming with me and all that stuff. And Deb would feel like, oh, she can probably get with a bear because she watches anime. And it's like, just kind of like going
She
back
can
on,
probably get with the what?
this girl will probably be able to take a bear from me because she watches anime. Whoever
Oh,
that
no
girl is.
way, really?
Yeah, that was a thing before. Because Deb
Okay.
wasn't about that life and she didn't understand it. Like she didn't understand how big of a deal Final Fantasy VII Remake was. I had to really break it down for him. Like this game sold 5 million copies in like a
Uh-huh.
day. She
Yeah.
didn't understand those things.
In a
Versus
day.
yeah, in a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
a whole
okay.
different episode conversation about
Yeah.
Final Fantasy. But just to kind of give perspective, like she didn't understand the gaming world like that. Like now it's a different. She's been with me for like what 4 years, 3 4 years, I don't know. So obviously you're gonna learn things indirectly or directly. Like one of the coolest games for her that came out was Ghost of Tsushima. I think I
Hmm.
talked to you about it at some point.
Yeah, you
Beautiful.
love the animation. You showed me the animation. It was
You right?
beautiful.
So when Deb saw she like, yo, this game is because Deb does photography. So when she saw the game's photo mode, she was really impressed. Like she was like, this game is. She even played she even watched the first beginning of the game with me. She's like, this game is fucking beautiful. What the hell? Why is this game so beautiful? Like she was blown away. Right. So, but there was a
Yeah.
point where Deb wasn't like that. She didn't understand it, and she also, to some extent, wasn't very receptive to it because it's completely out of her norm. Like when I say not accepting but receptive in the sense of wanting to learn, she's always accepting of it, which is why we work. But anyways, all that to say, like she would worry about X or Y woman taking me away because she doesn't engage in this and doesn't engage in that. The same way as Loid is like for sorry, Yor, she's always like, oh, Loid is probably more interested in her because she's more beautiful and she's more capable and she's smarter and so on and so forth. But it's like the thing that's not asked is just like with myself is like, what is he looking for? Yeah, she watches anime, but
Mm.
if she watches anime and if she watches anime and not with her and I'm with you, then I'm obviously anime is not a tenant for who I'm with. One. And then two, that also says something about your character, the fact that you don't watch anime and I'm with you. Conversely, with Loid, if she has all these skills and he's with you, that says something about you, not so much your quote unquote incompetencies.
Mm.
Like the
Interesting.
one thing that's not being like withhold this tension between Yora and Fiona is that they're not really asking themselves what is Loid looking for. One's worried about if Loid is going to constantly stay interested in her, and the other one's trying to prove herself why she's the best suited to be the best wife for Loid. But no one's asking like, okay, well, what is Loid looking for? He's looking for someone to make his house a home and to make Anya feel safe.
No, but I think that Yor has a better understanding of what Lloyd wants compared to Fiona, in that
She has a self awareness for it. She just has a
that
lot of
too,
self doubt. Go on.
that too. But remember, Lloyd made it clear to her, to Yor that, hey, I'm looking for a mother for Anya.
hmm
So, and remember after that, Yor was like, okay, so if it's the role of a mother you want me to play, it's I gotta learn how to cook, clean, and make sure that you're good. I think that in that respect, the ideal version of what a mother is,
hmm
I think that I think that she is trying to fulfill that for Lloyd,
hmm
but I think what you're saying to like who is Lloyd himself, because we it's like what you said, we don't even know his real name, right? So we
hmm
don't really know Lloyd ourselves.
hmm
I think that answering the question what Lloyd truly wants, yeah, I think you're right. We don't know, and
hmm
I don't think that you're even wondering that.
They're not asking either, right? They're always one's constantly worrying and one constantly feels entitled, but no one's just like, okay, well, what are you looking for? What are you looking for, my guy? Like, what are you trying to find a wife? No one's asked. Is this
But I
one thing
think
to hear?
I think what he truly wants is
Mm.
completely irrelevant, and I'll tell you why. It's
What he
because
wants is irrelevant, you said?
no, what he truly wants, he him like truly wants, like outside the facade, him being a spy, and what he truly wants is not really important, and I'll tell you why. And that's because as grown adults, we make it clear to the person we're with what we want during the talking stage, especially. I'm not speaking
Okay.
about when you're a teenager or a young
Yeah,
adult.
yeah,
I'm
I get
speaking,
you. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we make it very clear.
When you're
He
marriage
made it,
minded. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So he made it very clear to your
Mm-hmm.
that this is what I want, and especially this is what I want for Anya,
Mm-hmm.
which is why she assumed that position.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about Fiona is that she never asked Fiona that. All Fiona is going off of is based on the mission itself. So she's
Mm.
being very
And
technical
what
with
she
the
assumes
approach.
about Loid. Right.
And exactly what she assumes that she knows about Twilight, actually. She doesn't even know Lloyd.
Twilight. Yeah.
So what she knows about Twilight.
Ooh, this man's spitting. Go on.
Yeah, no. So it's like this is the way I'm thinking, right? So she's going off of what who Twilight is,
Mm.
and based
Or
on the
was.
mission or was, and based on the mission Twilight took. So she probably read on paper, okay, this guy needs a family,
Mm-hmm.
raising this kid named Anya. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. This man never asked me what I wanted. I'm just gonna go off of what this piece of paper tells me
Right.
based on my own judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, of course, Lloyd approached your very sincere, even though he was acting,
Mm-hmm.
but as Lloyd, not as Twilight, probably the same. We
Yeah.
can make the
Yeah.
argument same both as Twilight and Lloyd
I
when
would
it
say
comes
as
to
Loid.
mission.
I would go as Loid because the mission. It's all as much as quote unquote a mission. It's all about just Anya in general. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's all about Anya, right? So he approached her very sincerely and said, "Listen, I need a mother. I need a mother who can take care of my child." So this is something that he saw. This is the important takeaway. He saw something in your that he didn't see in other women. Because remember, he had a paper, a selection of all these women that he could have chose from,
Mm.
but he didn't. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason why he didn't, because there wasn't that love behind that character, those
Mm-hmm.
characters. So
Very true.
that's a key takeaway. So I think that Lloyd knew exactly what he wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and he asked for that. He communicated that
Mm-hmm.
to Yor, but he
Mm-hmm.
never did that for Fiona.
They
There's a
never had
reason
that
why he never,
conversation.
yeah, they
Yeah.
never had that conversation. There's a reason why he never saw for Fiona. He could
Right.
have, because they did many missions together, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my takeaway on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like one of my exes, she really wanted to work things out between her. Well, two of my exes. I have one from Montreal and one that's the abusive ex here in Toronto, and they
Okay.
both never really understood what I needed. And
Did you communicate
yeah,
to them what you
definitely
wanted?
did, definitely
Okay.
did. But
See
are
what's
you
up.
in a space of receiving? Are you in a space of listening?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think like even just kind of on that, right? When Fiona showed up at their place, their condo, whatever it is, or apartment, she was just constantly pressing Loid.
Mm.
And Lloyd's like, yo, like, relax, calm down. And she just wasn't listening. She wasn't in a space to listen. And I was watching this, going back on one of the episodes, one of the videos from Abin Preach. They were talking about how we've created, and this goes into back into our conversation, within African and Caribbean culture. One could say even Black culture on a global macro scale, where women take up all the emotional space, because we know women are allowed to express their emotions and know how to convey their emotions. There's this unspoken, not truth, but assumption that women are very good with managing the emotions of others and being good listeners. It took them quite a bit of time to develop listening skills. And I've talked about my mom and my sister. It's true. And it took
Yeah.
quite a bit of time for my mom and my sister. On my end, it took me a long time to develop how to receive Deb's emotions and how to be there for her. That's like we talked about earlier in the, like when before we started recording, like to hold space for her emotions in terms of how she feels and to acknowledge that. But women, not all women are good listeners. I was saying, in general speaking, women aren't good listeners. They don't know how to receive the emotions and thoughts of others. So we're saying certain things to them, but they weren't listening. They weren't in a space to receive that information, because there's this assumption, that unspoken assumption, which is not necessarily true, that women are really good at listening and hearing. It's like, not really. because the only emotions that matter for like your whole life are you. So why do my emotions? Why should you suddenly take into account my emotions and my feelings? Not necessarily the case. So that's just one. That's
Okay.
you know,
Are you saying that because we always have to listen to their emotion and they always make it about themselves,
mhm.
uh, that's the reason why they're not a good listener?
Yeah, they never had to.
Okay.
If you've never had to develop a skill, why would you suddenly know how to do something?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay. That's an interesting take. It's a very interesting take.
Yeah, I've said this many times outside of the podcast and YouTube that me as a sensitive growing up as a sensitive boy in an African Caribbean household, the way my mom and my sister spoke to me, they wouldn't talk to me that way if I was a girl.
Mm.
Because there's no such thing as sensitive boys. In fact, I was when I went to go get my haircut yesterday, there was a boy and he was getting his haircut and he's very sensitive, very squeamish. And you could see his mom getting really frustrated with him. I think like it would probably still happen if like it was a little sensitive girl and she's getting her hair braided, but there's less space for sensitive boys than there's for sensitive girls because boys are
Agreed.
not supposed to be sensitive. Boys don't feel. Boys have no emotions. I would say we play a role as that in terms of men, in terms of how we operate under the guise of stoicism, kind of like what you said in terms of Loid taking off his mask, right? Being have the confidence and charisma to handle things. But yeah, there's no real. We're not telling women to hold space for us, and we're not demanding space for us, so they don't hold space for us, which creates like a cycle, a negative cycle. But yeah,
So is this something that we can fault them or blame ourselves?
it's
I just want to
both.
hear it too.
It's
It's both,
both.
right?
We're not asking and demanding for it, and they're not thinking that it even exists. So yeah, my mom and my
Would
sister
you say
definitely didn't
would you
think
say
about it.
the reason they don't think that it exists is because we don't ask of it?
I think society says that we don't have emotions,
And
and
then
then we don't
but
share
then
it, and it's
society is made up of, so basically men is what you're saying.
partially because at the same time, even when we do express it, they're also like, I don't know what to do. And so we are just like,
Uh,
well, I'm definitely not going to express myself now. Right. So it's a twofold thing. It's a conversation that we need to have. And so that's one of the earlier conversations Deb and I had. And, I've also had with like my female friends too, in terms of holding space for their boyfriends and their husbands. I'm like, think about it. Your mom took up all the emotional space, not just from your dad, her husband, but also from you as the kids. So what are you trying to do? Because they would sometimes my female friends would talk to me like, how come he doesn't share this or how come he's not talking about this? Because he's been told to shut up about his feelings his whole life, and now you want him to just share it?
yep, I agree with you.
He's been shamed for them. Why would he suddenly just start sharing it with you? He's been condemned for crying when he was 5. So why would he allow himself to cry in front of you? In fact, it was the same black woman like yourself who told him to shut up about his crying. So why would he cry in front of you all of a sudden? And also his sister condemned him for crying too, right?
And
Like
then
even like
what's very interesting is that they'll use that pain, that crime that you once did against you in the future.
and that's the next point I
It's
wanted to
it's
say.
happened
One
to
of the
me. Yeah,
things,
it's happened
sorry,
to me a
just
lot of
want to say
times.
that yeah, speak on it, but I just want to say something. One of the things I was told by my dad was, which goes back into Loid not being very emotionally vulnerable. As much as he's a great father and a great husband, he's not very emotionally vulnerable. Unlike yeah, she hides the fact that she's an assassin, but she wears her emotions on her, she wears her heart on her sleeve, right? You can
Yeah.
see when she's crying, when she's emotional, when she's happy. Loid just smiles at best, right? And I say that in the sense of one of the things my dad said was never to be vulnerable with women because they can use, and I've seen it, they'll use your emotions and your feelings against you. In fact, my ex, just last point I'll say, because you're helping me remember something. One of the things that my ex said in Montreal, we were having a disagreement. Well, no, she was near and this is her. I'm not saying women are like this because of this, but she was near her period, I think. It was either that or it was like one of her exams were stressing her out. And one of the things she said was, and I'll never forget this because this led into how I moved forward with women. It was a very informing situation. One of the things she said was, The only reason I listen to you talk about video games and anime is because it puts me to sleep.
Oh, 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 oh,
Just say whatever you want, right? Men don't feel, so I'll just say whatever I want. I don't have to think about
oh.
it because society is also not telling women to think about men's feelings, right? We don't have any, so no one's telling women how to think and how to articulate themselves in relation to men. And the only thing we're always told is women are these delicate, brittle flowers that we need to be careful of in terms of what we say, right? If you
Mhm.
tease a woman about her weight, oh, you're bad, but she can make fun of you for about your weight. Double standards.
It's
So to
yeah,
wrap up my point, because I want to
excuse
give
me.
you the space
Yeah.
to talk. After she said that, I stopped talking about video games and anime. Cut it off. I'd be on the phone with her. She'd ask me about my day. I wouldn't mention anything about video games or anime. So eventually, she got to the point. She's like, "How come we don't talk about this?" I'm like, "You told me what you said. You said to put you to sleep." So I stopped sharing. Going back on the mask. Oh, I was vulnerable and you used it. Cool. I'm gonna close off now. That's how we move as men. Word? That's how
Yep.
you feel? There's the same as like if you start talking about a woman and your sexual experience with her, she won't have sex with you again.
Yep.
But yeah, you wanted to say
It's
some stuff. Sorry for taking up all
there,
that space.
no, 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 don't apologize. Yeah, they would ask for honesty, and then the minute we give it to them, it's not what you expected.
Hmm.
But no, so no, just going back on what she's. So how did you feel though when she said that?
When my ex said that, I was hurt. I was very hurt because I was being very. I don't share my love
Did
of
you
video games.
resent her? Did you resent her a bit?
No, I hurt. I was just hurt.
You're just hurt.
I was just hurt. It was simple as just hurt. If anything, maybe betrayed because I shared something with you. I don't talk to anybody like when a new update for a game comes out. I don't just talk about it with anybody. So actually, you were the first person I called about these things, and that's how you treat my vulnerability. I'm just not going to share with you then. I don't need to.
Do you
And those are
think?
some of the experience that I like. Deb never said anything to that extent, but there's some things that Deb did or said that it kept me from sharing. And we had to have conversation about that. Like when you do this, so Deb has had to learn to hold space for my emotions. So those are
Mhm.
some of the things that we want to change in
Oh,
terms of
that's
generational trauma.
beautiful. That
So
is beautiful.
she has to realize that like depending on what I say, I bear my clothes off. Like even there's been times where she might be going on like a sort of emotional rant about something I may have did or said, whether
Yeah.
I'm right or wrong, and she's caught herself because she's like, I'm being like the black women that he grew up with, where I'm just lambasting him with everything he did wrong. And so me growing up with that, which we had a conversation about, is that I shut off. I close off and I shut off because there's no space for me to be sensitive or feel in
Hmm.
those situations with my mom and my sister. So I close off. So when Deb used to do that, I would close off. So she's had to kind of take a step back and be like, hey, I need to be wary of how, like, even if I'm upset, how I express it to him, because this might cause him to close off from me. Lots of
Mm.
process just now, eh?
No, 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 because what you're saying, I'm able to relate with that. So, yeah, yeah, exactly. We close off, and it's very interesting that you say that because that's exactly what happened with me and my mother. We got into an argument one time, and then she brought up something that happened to me when I was 15, when I
Mm-hmm.
was at my lowest of the low, like lowest.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something like, oh, that's why, because this happened to you when you were 15. And then in my mind, I said, wow, you still remember that? I can't believe you would bring that up.
Kevin Samuels called it sign language. Shame, insults, guilt, and need to be right.
I need to be right, exactly. And then that caused me to
Close off.
close off. And it caused me to close off for about 3, 4 months. Like where I'm living with her, but I'm not speaking to her for 3, 4 months. It was so toxic. But I'm very self-aware of these situations. So I told myself eventually I'm going to slowly open up, but she needs to understand that what she said actually
What's
did
wrong?
hurt me. But at the same time, you can't say that again, or this will happen.
Right. Yep. Those
So I think,
boundaries.
yeah, exactly. And those are my boundaries. And I think that she understood that very well, because when we started speaking again, and you could kind of see like she was walking on eggshell. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what if I was to say something and he does that again?
Mm-hmm.
But I just reassured her, no, that's not the case. Just you knew what you said. You knew what you were doing. Because
Mm-hmm.
another thing that we don't understand is that when women say certain things, or when they say things that know that where they know it's going to hurt us,
Mm-hmm.
we're completely oblivious to that. We're just like, no, she's probably just mad. That's what she said. No, she knows what she was doing.
We
You see
see
what I'm
women
saying?
as these angelic, and this. I think we talked about it. I feel like we talked about it in one of the episodes. Oh, when we were talking about Shield Hero, where we see women, we as men see women in the ways that we want to see our mom. Because
Yeah,
as we get
so
older, we
we
want to
love
see things the way it is.
idealistically, really.
We see them as these perfect, angelic, lily daisy goddesses who never do anything wrong. And if they did, it wasn't. It was never on purpose. How could she hurt you? Your mom never hurt you. Your mom never hurt your dad. They're just always so good all the time. But it's like women are people.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. We forget that they're humans too.
Yeah.
That's what we forget. But no, it's just a matter of just having a conversation with them and trying to heal from that. Because at the end of the day, she's my
If
best friend.
they're willing to
Yeah,
talk, yes.
yeah, if they're willing to talk. But another point I want to bring up is I remember when I didn't open up,
Okay.
and this is with someone again I used to date. I didn't open up, and they would say things like, I just feel like I don't know you. I'm sharing all my life with you, and you're not saying anything.
Right.
And then I know what happens if I was to open up emotionally. Like I know what's gonna happen. I know what's
hmm
gonna happen. It's why are you being so feminine? Why
hmm
are you being so sensitive?
hmm
I can't have a conversation with you. You're
hmm
always so sensitive.
hmm
And it's funny because last night I was speaking. I'm seeing someone, right? So I was speaking to that woman,
hmm
and she said it was very interesting. She said, it was a conversation where I said, "Nah, you know what? I try to grow a beard. I don't look good in the beard, man. So I just shaved out." Because she said I have like a baby face or something like that. And then I said, "Yeah, I don't look good with the beard." And she said, "Oh, let me see. Let me see you on FaceTime right now." I said, "No, not right now. It's cool. Probably tomorrow." And that's what I said. I said, "Tomorrow. I promise tomorrow." She said, "Why are you acting like a girl? I'm supposed to say no on FaceTime. Like, no, let's do it tomorrow." And I was surprised. I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I just said tomorrow, and that's it. Like, there was no, my voice didn't go higher. I just said we'll just do it tomorrow. But it was just the fact that she said that. I was just like, wow. Even if we were to just speak normal and just we don't want to do certain things,
Masculinity is static.
we come off
Femininity is dynamic. It can be whatever what they want it to be.
exact. And
But
I'm just like, I just said, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow. And I said it in this voice, the voice I'm speaking in right now, and the fact that she said, I was like, wow. It's like whatever they want, they say is like it has to go, right? And I'm
yeah,
just like, wow, okay, that's interesting. But
yeah,
of course, I just said I'll just do it tomorrow. So that's
I'm
fine.
glad you stood your ground, and it kind of goes back on. I wanted to say something on it, but there's a specific point I want to make. But yeah, there's not really much space for us to. Oh, there we go. There's not much space for men that aren't confident. Like unless literally, unless I know as much as it's fictional, unless you have the confidence of Loid, there is no space for you as a man to find a wife.
Yeah, because remember, you're gonna go through a lot of. Can I swear?
Yeah, I've been swearing. It's all good.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna go through a lot of shit tests, a lot of
Yeah.
shit tests, and a lot of them are subconsciously done. A lot of people don't realize it. Like, so for
hmm
example, when she said, "Why are you being like a woman because you don't want to FaceTime me?" That was
hmm
subconscious. That's
hmm
very subconscious.
Pushing you, pressing
Yeah.
your
So,
buttons to see how you
so
react.
exactly. So it's a way to see, okay, how does this guy deal with conflict? Number one, and number two is if whatever I say he does, is he going to do this? Does that make
Very
sense?
good point.
Like
No, no, you're
I
right.
want to, yeah.
How
So I want to
easy does he
see
bend
if
under pressure?
Exactly. So if I guilt trip him, and is he easily guilt tripped?
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to guilt trip him, is he gonna fold?
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'm just like, listen, I'll just do it tomorrow. It's just whatever.
There you go.
So, but imagine if I gave in, then it would have been like, oh, okay. So
Now, what
I
else?
could just target his masculinity
Every time.
every single time, and I'm gonna get what I want. And then remember that turns them off too, right? Like it's
Yep.
just like you're just manipulating. They could just
Exactly.
manipulate you.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Those are some great points. And the last thing I kind of want to talk about in this series is my favorite episode. This is when I became a real big fan of Spy Family. It
Okay.
was episode 8. Episode 8. You're probably like, what? I was like, what's
Wait. Let
episode
me.
8? What happened in episode 8? I'll tell you what happened in episode 8. That's when Yuri Breyer, your brother, Loid's brother-in-law, showed up. That
Okay.
was
Is this season one or season two?
season 1. I don't know. Everyone keeps
That's
saying
season.
season 2. Season 1 was just broken up into 2 parts. It's all season 1.
Okay.
But yeah, you're not the first one to keep saying season 2. I'm like, no. This whole part 1, part 2 was started by Mappa and Attack on Titan. They're the kernels of that. This was all season 1. We should have got the second half of this like 8 months ago. Anyways, that's my criticism. Stop there. There's a good quote that where is it? Yeah, there's a great quote that started. I think it was they started the episode. It was midway when Yuri arrived at the Forger's residence. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but Forger is a planet word for they forge their identity and they forge the family that they have. I don't know if you knew that. It was on purpose.
No, I thought that name was randomly selected.
No,
So that's a good point.
forged. Just like when they did the tennis match, they were Mr. and Mrs. Phony couple.
Mm-hmm.
Just a fun little fact. But yeah, um, there's a great quote, and that's when I'm like, this shows something special. I'm gonna read it now. Everyone has a side that they don't show anyone else, to their friends, their significant others, or even their families. They hide what they're truly feeling through fake smiles or bravado, and keep their true identity secret. That is how the world keeps the appearance of its temporary peace.
You
Love
know
it.
what?
Mm,
That quote is a very old Japanese saying that we have three faces. I think you've heard about this, right?
kind of, yes. But explain for the viewers and listeners.
Yeah, so it's this old Japanese proverbs that we have three faces, one that we show our family, friends, and that one that we don't show the world.
Mm,
So it reminds me of that. And you know what? I agree. I agree.
yeah, there you go. We all have a lot of things that we're not showing other people just so we can maintain the peace. And I just love that so much. Um, there was a lot of, man, just thinking about us getting married, there's a lot of appeasement that we had to do for a lot of the family. How we had to hide certain aspects, how we as people, we just always hide certain aspects about ourselves for others so that we can maintain the peace. And just Yuri, um, Yuri really represented some of my experiences leading up to the wedding.
Okay.
I'm not one like Deb really wanted the wedding. I support her in it, and I think the wedding was a good learning building block for us in terms of our marriage and uh, good learning experience. But the way in which Yuri gave Loid such a hard time is the same is because of the same thing why Yor loves her brother Yuri is that he loves her and so he wants the best for her.
Hmm.
But oftentimes, what we want the best for someone else may not be what they want. And
Yep.
that's something that we often struggle with. I was having this. I know you want to say something. One of the things I had a conversation with one of my friends with is that we're talking about how we just kind of respect because he's married too, and we kind of had this conversation of where we're just like you just kind of have to let people respect people in their space in terms of their relationship, even if we see it as unhealthy. You have to kind of let people make their own decisions after a certain point and just kind of be there for them. Sorry, you're about to say something?
No, but I can add my 2 cents in very quickly. I think that one thing I've always do, now, of course, I'm not married like you guys yet, but one thing I always do whenever I speak with with women is whenever we get into a very deep conversation, I always ask, what's their love language? And I think that this is very important to understand because what men tend to do is there's a lot of men that lead with their money, right? So they think that acts of service will be the only thing a woman would want. So if I just buy her a Gucci bag and Gucci purse, whatever the case may be, she's gonna love me even more. Yeah, she may like you, but if you don't take the time to understand her love language, like, 'cause it may be quality time, right? It might just be, I just want to be with you, watch a movie, eat ice cream or something like that. And I'm actually going to be very happy as opposed to if you just got me this Gucci bag and you never spoke to me. So I think that it's very important to understand a person's love language
Mhm.
so that you can love that person even better.
Right.
So because or what's going to happen is you're going to do something that the person never asked for,
That's true.
right? So what tends to
Yes.
happen is near the breakup, the guy would be like, "Well, I took you on trips. I bought you gifts. I went
Entitlement.
to a restaurant. Exactly. I went to a restaurant." And then the woman can just simply say, "Well, I never asked for those things."
Yep.
And
Preach.
that's where it hits the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that people need to understand each other's love language, uh, in order to um, in order to just avoid that. But if I had to take this even further between a mother and child's love. I think that this is one that highlights the most in our society. Just let me take my example for I'm going to speak for myself and not go into theory base here,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember I had a really good conversation with my professor, and I told him, "Do you miss?" He's about like 60 something years old, but I always asked him this because he would speak so fondly about his mother, and I would ask, "Do you miss her?" He's like, "Yes, I do." But I understand that I knew this day would come. So what I do is you need to prepare yourself because you never know when that time would come for
Right.
when your mom leaves you. And
Mm.
I said, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. And what you need to do is you need to not be so dependent on her because if you are, and the
It's
day
gonna
she
hit harder.
leaves, it's going to hit extremely hard. And then he would tell me, so if she always makes you food, try to cook for yourself, try to provide for yourself. Let her don't be too dependent on her because what's going to happen is when you do move out, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, she's going to be even more lonelier because she used to cook for you. She used to be there for you emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try to make sure that if I had this conversation with her where, don't worry, I'm going to cook for myself. Even if she does offer me, I will thank her
Mm-hmm.
for it, but I will
And this is
let
the
her
teacher.
know.
This is the person, right? The teacher, I think you said.
Yeah, he was telling me this, but then after that, I was speaking to my mom about this. I was telling her this exact. I'm like, thank you so much. I'm old enough. I know there's no age limit to when you start being my mother, but I could take care of myself up to this point. Like I'm working, I'm able bodied. I understand you want to do this, but you're not helping me.
Right.
If you think you're helping me, you're not really helping me
Right.
anymore because if anything, it's reinforcing the cycle system where I'm dependent on you
Right.
and you're being dependent on me.
Right. You're dependent on my dependency on you. Right. Codependency is, I think, what it's called. Right.
Exactly. So I sort of let her know so she doesn't cook as much for me. But
Right.
and and it's just very important to understand this because what's gonna happen is that if it's not understood,
Mm-hmm.
when you find your wife, you're going to try to treat her like how you're like how
And
you
how your
treated
mother
your
takes
mom.
care of you. Right.
And you don't want that because you want a partnership.
Right.
You don't want a mother-son relationship. That's so unhealthy, right?
Right.
You want a partner-partner relationship.
Right.
So that's one
And
of the things. Yeah, continue.
sorry, and I'd like to kind of pivot that in a specific direction, in the sense of understanding, in terms of being accepting of your friend, family member, whatever, moving into the transition of starting their own family. Because there's a really good quote. I really empathize with Yuri in terms of his frustration with Loid marrying his sister. I just kind of want to read that out as well. Can you even imagine how it feels for me to have the most important person in my life just suddenly taken from me by some guy who appeared out of the thin air? Sure, I wanted you, Yuri, to get married someday and find true happiness, but that guy has to be someone who could protect you even better than me.
Spoken like a true wife.
Well, brother,
My,
but yes.
that's the
Brother,
yeah, that's the brother saying that. Oh, my
yeah,
bad.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Spoken like a really good brother. Yeah.
yeah. He wants the best for her, but at the same time, this is the most important person for him. And now, in many ways, as much as they still have that relationship, it's changed. Right now, the most important person for her is her husband Loid, right? And I could see how some of my friends are worried about me making a bad mistake. It's like, hey, this is the most important person for us, and now you're with this person who before, kind of like what we talked about, Mob Psycho had these faults and these flaws, and now we're suddenly supposed to trust you that you're making the best decision for the most important decision in your life. I think there's a lot of merit to that because I've even seen a lot of conversations of men, where the friends refused to come to the wedding and they had a reason to because she divorced him like 3 weeks later and took the house, and now he's homeless. They didn't want to be a part of that. Those horror stories are true. Some of those things will happen, and there are also cases where it's not the case at all. So I think it's important, and this goes back into what you're saying about like how adults see things versus children. We have to get to a point where we see the fellow adults in our life and trust them in the decisions that they're making. We can talk about this offline. I don't like to air other people's personal business out, but I have a family member who's getting divorced. And there's some weird things that they've been doing in terms of their marriage or not marriage. Like I saw them wear their wedding band, even though they've been divorced. They're wearing their wedding band, I think, on their right hand or something like that. And I've had family and friends be like, "Oh, what's your take on it? What do you think about them doing this and that?" And I'm like, I love them, and I'm going to be there for them as they're moving out from their house where they have their family to their own, and they're going to have their kids come stay with them part-time, right? And part-time with their partner or ex-partner. I said, I'm just going to do my job as a family member and just love them. And just be there for them when because I'm really handy, so building and fixing things. Those are the two things I'm doing. I'm going to just love them. It's not for me to ask. Like before when I was 22, 25, like, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you guys going to go see Black Panther, Wakanda Forever? Like, you guys are divorced. You shouldn't be doing. It's not for me to judge. It's not for me to say. My job is to just love you and be there for you.
Yeah, as a friend, as a really good friend.
Yeah, as a family member in this case, I'm going to be there for you.
Family member, yeah.
But like, I'm not going to be like, oh, why? Like, that's weird. It is weird. Like, there's some stuff that they've been doing. I'm like, that's weird. No one does that. But what might I say?
But I mean, like, who are you to question the relationship, right?
Only you guys know what works for you. So if that's what works for you guys, good on you guys. Keep doing your thing. It's not for me to say. And I think that's something that I just seen overall. Like I've seen just the difference between my friends who are, like I guess you say marriage minded and getting ready to be married versus friends that aren't. Is just that sense of, I guess you could say compassion and trust for that other person to make the right decision versus like, you're so high strung. You're so, and I get where it comes from because I was there, and I completely empathize with Yuri in terms of just not wanting to see his sister gone, and who knows if this guy's even a good husband for you? What if he's a cheater? What if he breaks your heart? I don't want that for you. And I fully get that. I can fully get with some of my ex-groomsmen. I want to come to one like, I don't know. It seems that you're making the wrong decision. I see where you're coming from. At the same time, you have to also trust me as a fellow adult to make the right decisions. It's the same way as it's my job as someone who loves you to trust in you to make the right decisions. It's not on me to say. It's not for anyone to say. It's for me in my life to figure that out, right? And all we can do after a certain point, I think there's a certain age where you kind of have to steer people away from doing stupid decisions. But also at another point, you have to eventually just trust in people to make those decisions, right? You hear those stories of like, if you ever marry, like, in Black families, if you ever marry a white person, will disown you. You marry a Black person, will disown you, whatever it is. If you're a lesbian and marry a woman, will disown you. If you're gay and you marry another man, will disown you. And it's just like, you kind of just have to let people make the right decisions for themselves eventually as they're adults, right? You have to, what's the point of being an adult if you can't even let that person make the decisions for themselves, even if it's the most important ones? You have to kind of let them do that and respect them for it as their loved one.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, especially when they're kids, you have to let them get dirty and you have to let them make mistakes as kids. Because what's going to happen is if you don't do, let's say, for example, they're about to make a mistake and you interfere, when they grow up, that's what they're going to think that's going to happen. Okay, I'm about to make this mistake. I know someone else is going to help me. And you don't want to raise
Or
those type of people.
sorry to add, or they're afraid of making mistakes because every time they make a
Exactly.
mistake, they got in so much trouble. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, or they're afraid of making mistakes. So, and this can manifest itself into adulthood, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
it can look extremely nasty. Where, and I've heard this many times, where a woman would say, "Well, this guy's a mama's boy. I don't want a mama's boy," and that's
Mm-hmm.
because they never had the capacity to make their own decision.
Mm-hmm.
Their mother told them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Their mother told them how to behave and how to act.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why also having a father figure is it's very important in
Mm-hmm.
a child's life, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, but it's interesting what you're saying because it's like a relationship like that we simply cannot judge. All we can do is just be there for the person, right? One of my
Mm-hmm.
coworker, one of my coworker told me a story how he met his wife. Because whenever someone's married, I don't know, I always find it interesting. Like, how did you know that was the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always ask those type of questions. So I remember asking him that question, and he told me it's an arranged marriage. The minute he told me that, I said, "Oh, because and it's an arranged marriage, and you're in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because what's going to happen is there's just a lot of liberal values that's going to rub off on the person,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to start to think that, wait, why am I tied down when I could choose the person I love?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I don't even know if I love you. We just got arranged. It was our family
Mm-hmm.
who chose my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when he told me that, I refrained from any form of judgment. I said,
Mm-hmm.
I am not one to judge on anybody's relationship, whether you're married or you're not, if it's just a girlfriend or boyfriend. All
Mm-hmm.
I can do is I could just be there as a friend or a coworker to you. I told him, he told me that they were going through a process now they're being divorced, right? He told me from the jump like they're just never compatible, and in my mind I'm like, well, of course, right? Like, it's not to say that arranged marriages, a few cases don't work, but this is majority of them. I could confidently say it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard to make it work. But he told me that they're going through a divorce. Automatically what I said was, listen, man, if you need me, I'm here. I'm here as a friend. I'm here as a coworker, and that's the role I can play. If you were to ask me any opinion on your marriage, I'm not going to give you any of my opinion
Mm-hmm.
on on your marriage, because you guys have a kid involved, you guys have mortgages involved. Who am I to comment on such a relationship?
Mm-hmm.
So I just let him know. And so exactly the story you're just saying sort of reminded me of my coworkers. So yeah.
Yeah, and there you go. And the things that the people I grew closest to around the time of the wedding and just after we got married are the people who were just simply deciding to be there for me without judgment. And it's the people that I pulled away from were the ones who were so critical because they're like, oh, you made this wrong, you did that wrong. And it's like, hey man. And it sounds funny, but like one of my friends actually kind of made a similar point to this, but like I've never been married before.
Wait, what do you mean?
You're calling me about some of the mistakes that I've had, leading up to marriage and the wedding and everything.
Yeah.
How the fuck? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Oh.
I know it sounds funny. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just them. We've never been married before,
It's true. Yeah.
right?
You guys are just figuring it out
We
as
don't
you
know what
go.
the fuck we're doing. And on top of that, we're dealing with generational trauma and curses and trying to do things differently from my parents. Who the fuck are we going to learn from this doing it differently from my parents? Like, yeah, I have my mentors and whatnot. And Deb has like her sister talk to them for, and so on and so forth. But we don't have like a template. You're like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. I know I don't know what I'm doing. I fully acknowledge that. I don't know what the and she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing either. None of us know what the fuck we're doing. We're figuring out as we go. And that's something my friend said. He was like, you never had a wedding before, so how could you do a wedding properly?
I mean, which is why when it comes to giving, I don't give opinions on relationship because two people are different in their own unique ways, right? It doesn't matter
Every
who it is.
relationship
Like
is
you can
different, as
have,
Loid
yeah,
said.
exactly. You can have 100 years of relationship experience, but as long as you're dealing with two different people who never existed before in this world, you would never know how the relationship will be.
There you go.
Which is why, yeah, uh, yeah. I don't trust people who tries to give, like, for example, I'll give you a good example. I don't trust Steve Harvey. I really don't.
That's a whole different conversation. That's like
Yeah,
Derek Jackson territory. That's
yeah.
different.
Oh my God, Darren Jackson.
Different conversation.
When he first came out, I kid you not, I'm not gonna lie, he raises some very good points.
Yeah, some
Like
points I initially
there
agreed
there
with
were
him, but
some points
very,
he's
very, very, very
very good.
early. But after that, I was
But
just like, what?
but I've realized something about him that I didn't like, and that it was the fact that he just never spoke on men empowerment. It was always to
Women
put
were
us
always
down.
right.
Women, no matter what they did, what they said, were always
Always
right.
right.
And
And it's like, really?
I'm like, wait, hold on, no. Both the gender here can be at fault depending on the situation. It all depends on the situation. You can't pay one better than the other, no matter the
There you
situation.
go.
It
Yeah,
doesn't work like that.
nope.
So, and I just stopped listening to that guy. But and then he came out to
Yep.
as a
And we
fraud,
all
and I
knew
was
it.
just like,
You as
yeah,
black
yeah.
men knew
I'm
it.
like, yep.
But to kind of wrap things up, I just wanted to get your. I like for us to do this moving forward. We kind of started that with Spy Fam with Cyberpunk and Mob. Even though you didn't watch season 2, which we're gonna have to revisit.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on on Spy Family?
Oh, Spy Family.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good slice of life, like
Mm-hmm.
a slice, whatever you want to call
Slice
it.
of life. Yeah, yeah.
It's a very good anime. I think that's very chill. If you just want to rewind, uh, take
Unwind. Yeah.
yeah, unwind and take a break from work, and you don't want to think too much. I think that's the anime to watch. I think that there's a lot of philosophical concept behind it. If you really try to understand, like so, for example, the Japanese proverbs of the three
Faces.
faces.
Yep.
Um, I think that it really also highlights just the human nature of how we often act, and that is we try to conceal who we really are in order to not try to scare the other person. So the
Yeah.
fact that
We all look for love
you're yeah, we are, yeah, exactly, in order to
and
try to look for
acceptance.
love. So the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you can't just say I'm an assassin,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and the fact that Loid can't just say I'm a spy, and the
This isn't
child
even
can't
my
just say
real name.
yeah, this is my real name. They know if they were to say their secret that one is going to scare them off, and two, they're going to break off the relationship.
But sorry to add, they think that
They
too.
think exactly. They
Assume.
think.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I'll tell you the truth. The only time I was actually going to break off the relationship is, of course, in the beginning, right? But because now they're too deep in, they really love each other,
Mm-hmm.
and they could just come clean. And it depends how you say it, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depends how you say it. But no, the anime is very interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think that if you like slice of life and you're very interested in this whole relationship dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the anime is for you. I
Yeah, I
think
agree.
you may like it.
I had a friend who recommended like another show like this, but it involves gangsterism, so I might check that out too. And if people are interested, because it's a lot of points we didn't get to cover on this episode. If people want a part 2, I'm definitely. We were originally supposed to have Deb for this episode, but she hasn't had a chance to check out Spy Family. So if if the listeners and viewers are interested, people in the comments, whatever, if you want a part 2 on commenters on social media.
Well, hold on. Before
If
we
it,
go, what do you think about the anime?
I love it. A lot of people are just like, like I said in the blurred group chat I'm in, uh, they were
No, no,
they were
but
asking.
why do you
That's what I
love
was
it?
about to get at. I was about to get at.
Okay.
They were like, "Oh, what's your favorite anime of this year and this season?" I'm like, Attack on Titan was what I expected to be. Edge Runners was what I expected to be, but like Spy Family just threw me in for a loop because it's like, oh, they're spies, but it's like slice of life. You just have me in this space where There's no secret mission. It's not about Operation Strix. They're just spending time as a family. Anya's eating peanuts, playing with Bond. By the way, Bond is a reference to James Bond. I don't know if you know that. And Anya's subject number 007. 007 James Bond. So I don't know if you caught on to that too. Yeah, they're just in this space of just being a family, and I just find that so relatable in so many ways and so enjoyable. And even Deb's like interested in watching the show because she loves kids and babies. You know, she works with children, so she loves this stuff. So I showed her a little bit of Spy Family, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, oh, Anya's so adorable," and so she's already interested in watching the show. Yeah, just like how they can just leave you in this space of just being in the moment of just they're just a family. And Anya's eating peanuts, and she just ripped off, and Bond just ripped off the stuffed penguin teddy bear, and Loid fixes it. That's the episode. I love that they can just leave you in this space because that's really what it's like to have a family. You're just doing normal things. Sometimes extraordinary things happen. Like I said, us driving to Ottawa or some shit like that. Deb and I. But otherwise, like, there's not some crazy stuff that's happening. It's not like Titanic or the Notebook. I think, like, if anything, Spy Family is more a proper representation of what it looks like. Huh?
It's more realistic.
So much more realistic. We're talking about spies and explosions, and it has more realism than Titanic in terms of love and the Notebook, where you're hanging off a Ferris wheel. Yeah, that's about it. This has been a great episode. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Those listening and those watching. Jordan, I appreciate you coming on for this in terms of this episode I started my own spy family. Maybe part 2 will be called We Started Our Spy Family. For those that don't realize,
that's a bit selfish. You said I started my own
spy family. Because like I was gonna say we because Deb was originally supposed to be on this episode, but she didn't get a chance to watch it yet. So I just said I. Okay. But maybe part 2 will be we. I know the algorithms don't like part 2s. So we might just we started. And she'll be on that episode.
No, it was a good episode, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Agreed. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We out.
Peace.
Peace.